അദ്ദേഹം ഇപ്പോൾ കാർഷികോൽപാദന കമ്മീഷണറാണ്. വിശദമായ പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തലും സ്വാഗതവും നമ്മുടെ പ്രസിഡന്റ് കൂടിയായ മുൻ IG ശ്രീ ഗോപിനാഥ് സാർ നടത്തും. പിന്നീട് ഈ വിഷയത്തിൽ സംസാരിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി എത്തിയിരിക്കുന്ന ഡോക്ടർ G പവിത്രൻ. അദ്ദേഹം വർഷങ്ങളോളം പോസ്റ്റ് ഗ്രാജുവേറ്റ് എഞ്ചിനീയേഴ്സ് അസോസിയേഷൻ്റെ പ്രസിഡന്റായിട്ട് KSEB ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. വൈദ്യുതി ബോർഡിൻ്റെ ചീഫ് എഞ്ചിനീയർ ആയിരുന്നു. വൈദ്യുതിയുടെ ഈ വിഷയങ്ങളിൽ ഏറ്റവും നന്നായിട്ട് ഇത് അവതരിപ്പിക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരു വിദഗ്ധനാണ് അദ്ദേഹം. ഇതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ സദസ്സിലും ടെക്നോക്രാറ്റ്സ് ഉണ്ട്. മഴ പെയ്തപ്പോഴേക്കും നമ്മുടെ ആവേശം കുറച്ച് തണുത്തും തോന്നുന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ട് നാളും കുറഞ്ഞു. പക്ഷെ എല്ലാവരും കുറച്ച് സമയം കഴിയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് എത്തും എന്ന് പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുന്നു. ഞാൻ ശ്രീ ഗോപി സാറിനെ ഔപചാരികമായ സ്വാഗതത്തിന് വേണ്ടി ക്ഷണിക്കുന്നു.
എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. ദീർഘമായ ഒരു സ്വാഗത പ്രസംഗത്തിനൊന്നും മുതിരുന്നില്ല. നേറ്റി നേറ്റി എന്ന ഈ കൂട്ടായ്മ നമ്മുടെ ദേശീയ പ്രാധാന്യമുള്ള വിഷയങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ച് ഗൗരവമായി ചർച്ച ചെയ്യുകയും പലപ്പോഴും വളച്ചൊടിച്ചതും വക്രീകരിച്ചതും ആയ വിഷയങ്ങൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഓരോ വിഷയത്തെക്കുറിച്ചുമുള്ള അഭിപ്രായങ്ങൾ വളരെയേറെ പ്രചരിക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്ന ഈ ഒരു ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ എക്സ്പ്ലോഷന്റെ സമയത്ത് ശരിയായ നറേറ്റീവ്സ് ഓരോ വിഷയത്തിലും ചർച്ച ചെയ്ത് അത് ആളുകളിലേക്ക് എത്തിക്കാൻ കഴിയുന്ന തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു കൂട്ടായ്മയാണിത്. വളരെ പ്രഗത്ഭരായ ആളുകളെയാണ് ഇതിനകത്ത് അംഗങ്ങളായി പോലും, അതും ഇൻവിറ്റേഷൻ കൊടുത്ത് വരുന്ന ആളുകളാണ് ഇതിൽ അംഗങ്ങളാകുന്നത്. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഓരോ അംഗവും അതിൻ്റെ എണ്ണമല്ല, ഓരോ അംഗവും ഒരുപാട് ആളുകളെ പ്രതിനിധീകരിക്കുന്നു. കഴിഞ്ഞ ചർച്ചകളിലെല്ലാം വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ചന്ദ്രയാൻ ഉൾപ്പെടെയുള്ള നാരീശക്തി അഭിയാൻ, അങ്ങനെ വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട വിഷയങ്ങളാണ് ചർച്ച ചെയ്തത്. ശരിയായ നറേറ്റീവ്സ് ഇന്ന് നമുക്ക് എവിടെ നിന്ന് കിട്ടും എന്ന് പോലും പത്രക്കാരൊക്കെ ഉണ്ട്. ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് ശരിയാണോ എന്നറിയില്ല. ശരിയായ നറേറ്റീവ്സ് ഒരു വിഷയത്തിനെ പറ്റി എവിടെ നിന്ന് കിട്ടുമെന്ന് നമുക്ക് അറിയാത്തൊരവസ്ഥയാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഇത്തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു സജീവമായ ചർച്ചാ വേദിക്ക് തുടക്കമിട്ടത്. വളരെ പ്രോത്സാഹജനകമായ പ്രതികരണമാണ്. ഇന്ന് നമ്മളിവിടെ ചർച്ച ചെയ്യുന്നത് സമകാലികമായ വളരെയധികം പ്രസക്തിയുള്ള ഒരു വിഷയം, പവർ ടു പീപ്പിൾ. ജനങ്ങൾക്ക് ഊർജം അനിവാര്യമായ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒഴിവാക്കാൻ ഒക്കാത്ത ഒരു സാഹചര്യമാണ്. ഊർജ പ്രതിസന്ധിയെക്കുറിച്ച്, അതിൽ ജനങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ കഴിയും, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് മറ്റ് എന്ത് സാധ്യതകളാണുള്ളത് തുടങ്ങിയ വിഷയങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചൊക്കെ ആധികാരികമായി സംസാരിക്കാൻ കഴിയുന്ന രണ്ട് പ്രമുഖ വ്യക്തിത്വങ്ങളാണ് നമ്മളോടൊപ്പം ചേരുന്നത്. ഡോക്ടർ B അശോക് സാറിനെ കുറിച്ച് സുരേഷ് സൂചിപ്പിച്ചു. ഒരു മുഖവരെയും ആവശ്യമില്ല. ഇന്ന് പത്രം വായിച്ചപ്പോഴും അദ്ദേഹം ഇപ്പോൾ ജോലി ചെയ്യുന്ന അഗ്രികൾച്ചറൽ പ്രൊഡക്ഷൻ കമ്മീഷണർ, പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ സെക്രട്ടറി അഗ്രികൾച്ചർ എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ നെല്ല് സംഭരണത്തിന്റെ വിഷയത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് അദ്ദേഹം എഴുതിയ ലേഖനം വായിച്ചുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഇന്ന് എൻ്റെ ദിവസം തുടങ്ങിയത്. അദ്ദേഹം ഇലക്ട്രിസിറ്റി ബോർഡ് ചെയർമാനായിരുന്നു. ഒട്ടേറെ മാറ്റങ്ങൾ ഇലക്ട്രിസിറ്റി ബോർഡിൽ കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ ശ്രമിച്ചയാളാണ്. വെറ്റിനറി യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി വൈസ് ചാൻസലറായിരുന്നു. ഒരു എഡ്യൂക്കേഷനിസ്റ്റാണ്, മികച്ച പ്രഭാഷകനാണ്, എഴുത്തുകാരനാണ്. വിദേശ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റികൾ ഉൾപ്പെടെ ഗവേഷണങ്ങൾ നടത്തി നിരവധി അംഗീകാരങ്ങൾ നേടിയിട്ടുള്ള ആളാണ്. അദ്ദേഹത്തെ ഈ നേടി എന്ന നമ്മുടെ ഇടയിലേക്ക് ഏറ്റവും ഹാർദമായി ഞാൻ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുകയാണ്.
നമ്മൾ ആരംഭിക്കുകയാണ്. ശ്രീ അനിൽകുമാർ പണ്ടാലയാണ് ആദ്യം വിഷയം അവതരിപ്പിക്കുക. അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ഔപചാരികമായ സ്വാഗതത്തിന്റെ ആവശ്യമില്ല, കാരണം നമ്മുടെ ഒരു അംഗമാണ്. അദ്ദേഹം തിരുവനന്തപുരത്തെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കേരളത്തിൽ തന്നെ ഏറ്റവും അറിയപ്പെടുന്ന ശ്രദ്ധേയനായ ടെക്നോക്രാറ്റാണ്. കേരള റോഡ് ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ് പ്രോജക്ടിന്റെ മാനേജിംഗ് ഡയറക്ടറായിരുന്നു. തിരുവനന്തപുരം ഗ്രീൻഫീൽഡ് സ്റ്റേഡിയത്തിന്റെ മാനേജിംഗ് ഡയറക്ടറായിരുന്നു. അദ്ദേഹം ഈ IT രംഗത്തും അതേപോലെ തന്നെ ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ് രംഗത്തും പവറിന്റെ സെക്ടറിലും ഒരേപോലെ എക്സ്പെർട്ടൈസ് ഉള്ള ഏറ്റവും വിദഗ്ധനായ ആളാണ്. അദ്ദേഹത്തെ സാധിച്ചു വിഷയം അവതരിപ്പിക്കാൻ.
എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. ഡോക്ടർ B അശോക് IAS, ഡോക്ടർ G പവിത്രൻ, ഫോർമർ ചീഫ് എഞ്ചിനീയർ KSEB, സുഹൃത്തുക്കളെ, solar power എന്ന വിഷയമാണ് ശരിക്കും നമ്മളിവിടെ കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത്. എസ്പെഷ്യലി ഈ റൂഫ് ടോപ്പ് സോളാർ സൊല്യൂഷനാണ് ഇന്ന് ഈ ഡിസ്കഷന് ഹേതുവായിരിക്കുന്നതെന്നാണ് ഞാൻ മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത്. Rooftop solar solution was certainly a very much publicized and promoted campaign in Kerala. In the last two decades, after we all saw the CFL lab in the Gudangare Petiyake or promotion. So the public shifted slowly from the conventional consumption pattern, trying to reduce the consumption so that reduced consumption, that is power not consumed is power produced എന്നുള്ള ഒരു പാരഡൈമിലാണ് നമ്മൾ മുമ്പോട്ട് വന്നത്. അങ്ങനെ വന്ന് ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഈ സോളാർ പവർ റൂഫ് ടോപ്പ് സോളാർ പവർ സൊല്യൂഷനിൽ തട്ടി നിൽക്കുകയാണ്. Certainly controversies surrounding this particular subject makes this discussion very, very significant. My responsibility today is to set the tone for the talk and also the discussions that follow. For that purpose, at the outset, I must look at some numbers. We should have some numbers which will make the discussion more meaningful. That's what I think. But before I go into that, I would take an anticipatory mail from two people, especially Dr. V. Ashok and as well as Dr. G. Pavitran, who were running KSCB for some time, for a long time perhaps, and they are certainly masters in numbers. What I have is basically numbers which are collected from the public domain, which I myself find there are some conflicts here and there. But we will all know those numbers so that the discussions will have some meaning. First, what I would like to share with you is that Kerala's share of power generation in the country, Bharat's total power consumption is around 4.5 lakh megawatts. Other top all states combined in the Indian Union is 4.5 lakh megawatts. Other Gujarat stands at 52,000 megawatts, if I am not mistaken. And I'm just rounding off to certain numbers. I'm not giving a specific number. Maharashtra comes second with 46,000 megawatts. Tamil Nadu comes with 40,000, approximately 40,000 megawatts of power. Kerala's generation is around, maximum number I find in the public domain is 7,000 megawatts. So Kerala's share is just about 2% of the national figure. This one point probably you can keep it with you for making the discussions enriching. The second point that I would like to draw your attention to is that 1939 lana oru proper power project India, Kerala commission the first power project and first hydel project was 1939 Pallivasam. If I take a logical segment up to 1980, 40 years, we grew from 0 to 1,700 megawatts approximately of installed capacity. From 1980 to 2000, another 20 years, we grew another 850 megawatts. As 1,700 is another 20 years, that is 1,700 was in 40 years. Next 20 years we grew 850, which was actually literally 50%, which was okay. But in that 850, 360 was from Kayangulam thermal power station. So it goes into central grid if I am not mistaken. After 2000, when we should have grown with much higher pace, our growth is only 425 megawatts. So instead of the graph going up, it has been coming down. So this is the second point which kindly keep in mind. Now the third point is that the load peaking. Media has been, there's a frenzy in the media about the peak load, etc., etc. From the data available, it looks as though Kerala's power generation is not even able to meet 21% of the load. I hope I am correct. Probably we can discuss this. So it is clear that the governments that came and went completely neglected a key area which should have been one of our economic indicators. That is a failure. Okay. Now to cover up the deficiency, as I told, we have seen a lot of populist measures like CFL, then now the solar came, now LED has come. It's a different subject altogether, but in all, the cost of ownership, actually the consumer has been put to a lot of stress. That apart, other than creating a business opportunity for solar power generators, I think this has not achieved much, because from the reports that are available in the mainstream media and also trickling down from the social media, which we know Dr. Srilaga also had commented on the social media, it's a topic that is attracting a lot of discussion. It is clear that the consumer rooftop solar generation has lost its shape, not only for the government but also for the investors. So we hope this discussion today will highlight how much the energy generation techniques adopted by the ordinary public will be rewarded in future, whether it will actually contribute to the government's energy needs, because even today the total solar rooftop power generation, including some small power plants, I see that it is only 90 megawatts of installed capacity, and I think it is showing around 660 megawatts of generated power. I am not too sure how it is tallying. So, then at the end of today's session, I hope that we will all be having a more clearer picture as to how much the annual demand is met by total installed capacity in Kerala and how much is the gap that we buy from outside. How much is the private consumer generated solar power going to fill the gap? If at all it is going at this pace, growing at this pace, I think it is growing at around 15 to 20%. That's what I am told. Up to what level it can grow given the constraints that KSEB faces. Sometime back, about 5 to 6 years back, when similar discussion was there, I had raised a question of social correctness in this particular decision. Today, I think that is what KSEB is probably facing. Whether the incentives given are hurting the KSEB, if so, how is it hurting the KSEB? If it is not hurting the KSEB or measures can be found out in overcoming those problems, then how are we going to move forward? I hope by the end of this session we will have more clarity on these aspects, and the people who have invested in solar can probably heave a sigh of relief. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Anil Kumar Pandala. So we are moving to the subjects. I am waiting Dr. Ashok. അതോടൊപ്പം കേരളത്തിലെ ശ്രീ അനിൽകുമാർ പണ്ടാല പറഞ്ഞതിനപ്പുറത്തേക്ക് ഒരു കാര്യം കൂടി. കേരളത്തിലെ വൈദ്യുതി ബോർഡ് മാത്രം മതിയോ വൈദ്യുതിയുടെ രംഗത്ത്? ഈ ഒരു ചോദ്യം കൂടെ നമ്മൾ ഇവിടെ ഉയർത്തേണ്ടതാണെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ മുംബൈയിൽ BSES ഉണ്ട്, എൻറോൺ ഉണ്ട്, അവർ വൈദ്യുതി സപ്ലൈയിൽ ഇടപെടുന്നുണ്ട്. സ്വകാര്യ പങ്കാളിത്തം വരുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് കോസ്റ്റ് കുറച്ച് കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ പറ്റും, സാധാരണക്കാർക്ക് കൂടുതൽ ഓപ്ഷൻ വരുന്നു. ഇനിയും ഒരു ജലവൈദ്യുത പദ്ധതി കേരളത്തിൽ പറ്റുമോ? ഇതും ജനറേഷനെ കുറിച്ച് ശ്രീ അനിൽകുമാർ പണ്ടാല പറയുമ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ മുന്നിൽ ഉയരുന്ന ചോദ്യം അതാണ്. ഇനി ഒരു നദിയിൽ ഒരു അണക്കെട്ട് കേരളത്തിലെ സാഹചര്യത്തിൽ, ഈ പ്രളയത്തിൻ്റെയൊക്കെ സാഹചര്യത്തിൽ ഇനിയും പോസിബിളാണ്. ഇനി ഇതേപോലെ മന്ത്രിമാർ വരും, മൊത്തം അണക്കെട്ട് തുറന്നു വിടും. ഈ സാഹചര്യം കൂടെ നമ്മൾ കാണണം. അപ്പൊ ഈ തരത്തിലുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളിലേക്ക് കൂടി ഉദ്യോഗസ്ഥനായതുകൊണ്ട് പരിമിതികൾ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ പോലും ഡോക്ടർ അശോക് അതിലേക്ക് കൂടി ശ്രദ്ധ കേന്ദ്രീകരിക്കുമെന്ന് ഞാൻ പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുന്നു. അദ്ദേഹത്തെ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യും.
ഡോക്ടർ ബി അശോക് IAS, കൊല്ലം ചാത്തന്നൂർ സ്വദേശി, 1998 ബാച്ച് IAS ഉദ്യോഗസ്ഥൻ, പ്രമുഖ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ വിദഗ്ധൻ, എഴുത്തുകാരൻ, പ്രഭാഷകൻ, കോളമിസ്റ്റ്. കേരള വെറ്റിനറി സർവകലാശാലയുടെ ആദ്യ വൈസ് ചാൻസലറായിരുന്നു. കൊച്ചിയിലെ ചിന്മയ വിശ്വവിദ്യാപീഠം സർവകലാശാലയിൽ പ്രൊഫസറും രജിസ്ട്രാറുമായിരുന്ന ഡോക്ടർ അശോക് 98 ബാച്ചിലെ IAS ഉദ്യോഗസ്ഥനാണ്. കേന്ദ്ര കൃഷി വകുപ്പ് ഡയറക്ടറായി സേവനമനുഷ്ഠിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. 2 ദശകത്തോളം മുസൂറി IAS അക്കാഡമി ഫാക്കൽറ്റി, ഊർജ സെക്രട്ടറി, KSEB ചെയർമാൻ ആൻഡ് മാനേജിംഗ് ഡയറക്ടർ, ജലവിഭവ ഡയറക്ടർ എന്നീ സ്ഥാനങ്ങളും ഔദ്യോഗിക ജീവിതത്തിൽ വഹിച്ചു. KSEB ചെയർമാനായിരുന്നപ്പോൾ വെല്ലുവിളികൾ ഏറെ നേരിടേണ്ടി വന്നെങ്കിലും ബോർഡിൽ ഒട്ടേറെ പരിഷ്കാരങ്ങൾക്ക് അദ്ദേഹം തുടക്കമിട്ടു. കാർഷിക സർവകലാശാലയിൽ നിന്ന് വെറ്റിനറി സയൻസിൽ ബിരുദവും ലണ്ടനിൽ നിന്നും ബിരുദാനന്തര ബിരുദവും നേടി. കൂടാതെ ഇറ്റലിയിലെ ടുറിൻ സർവകലാശാലയിൽ നിന്ന് പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ സയൻസിൽ ബിരുദാനന്തര ബിരുദവുമുണ്ട്. 2019 സോഷ്യോളജി റിസർച്ച് ഡിസർട്ടേഷനുള്ള കാനഡയുടെ അന്താരാഷ്ട്ര ഗവേഷണ അവാർഡും അദ്ദേഹത്തെ തേടിയെത്തി. ടാറ്റ മാനേജ്മെൻറ്റ് സ്കൂൾ, ലണ്ടൻ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി, US-ലെ ഡ്യൂക്ക് യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി എന്നിവിടങ്ങളിൽ നിന്ന് മാനേജ്മെൻറ്റിൽ പരിശീലനം നേടിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. വെറ്റിനറി സയൻസിൻ്റെ ചരിത്രത്തെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള 5 പുസ്തകങ്ങൾ, ഒട്ടേറെ അക്കാഡമിക് പ്രബന്ധങ്ങൾ, 5000-ലധികം ലേഖനങ്ങൾ എന്നിവ അദ്ദേഹം പ്രസിദ്ധീകരിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. നിലവിൽ സംസ്ഥാന IAS അസോസിയേഷൻ പ്രസിഡന്റ് കൂടിയാണ്. ഡോക്ടർ B. അശോകിനെ നേതി നേതിയുടെ ഈ വേദിയിലേക്ക് ആദരപൂർവ്വം സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു.
Thank you. Since we have spent time, I'll try and address, and I'll be language agnostic. Malayalam, English will paraya. It's important to see electricity sector for Kerala or India has a reasonably long history. I'll pick up a few elements. Before I start, how many of you have actually worked with the electricity sector? Qualified electrical engineers, qualified accountants and auditors who have worked with KSEB or any electricity entity. That's like 15, 20, 25% of the audience. Okay, so please bear with me because I'm a non-engineer who happened to be the director of the KSEBL for 36 months, out of which they made me chairman, but the chairman vacated. I was asked to be chairman, and that exactly was 12 months and 1 day. We parted as friends. I wish them good luck, they wish me good luck, but I knew that things were not going to be all right for a variety of reasons. So my knowledge is functional, picked up from literature within government, literature in the sector. Now, you started the discussion with 2 parameters: role of solar and is KSEB enough? We have to slightly enter. In fact, I discussed with Dr. Pautan also, who will speak on the historical perspective of how KSEB came to be, to handle a certain power mix, etc. I'll try and dispatch a few early considerations on the power mix which operates in Kerala, meaning generation-wise sources, and you are absolutely correct to say that Kerala has an adverse power mix, meaning Kerala is producing only roughly 20 to 25% of the Kerala has only the capacity and the energy produced to meet 25% of what it consumes. So the first thing you need to keep in mind is, I don't know what was consumed last year, but it should be something like 58,000 million units. You can say on an average 30 million units are required, out of which Kerala produces 7 million units. It works out to be about 20, a quarter of what you need is there. But this was not always the case. Between 1976 and 87, Kerala post Idiki, when Idiki power plant came on grid, Kerala had more power than required for all the southern states. So you were a surplus. So it is not a deficit situation. 70 to 87, Kerala could supply Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Karnataka, and still it had surplus. So if you remember those days, actually the Kerala power minister faced a criminal case for actually what was alleged to be illicit supply from the Kerala grid to a particular company abroad.
So that situation has changed. So what has happened post 87 are two crucial things. First of all, sadly, not sadly, but unfortunately, let's say unfortunately, the Forest Act came in 80, and therefore Heidel took a very stiff difficulty in going forward with projects which required submergence of forests and the establishment of reservoirs. So probably Shabadagiri was the last 300 megawatt project which went online from Kerala. The rest of all of them, you know the story of Poyambutti, Silent Valley, and there was Adirapalli combined something like 500 megawatts which could not take off. They are all their individual stories. There is no point in revisiting these projects. They got into that policy change in Government of India. That happened, the Heidel development really decelerated between 80 and, as you rightly said, and that had an impact starting with 2000, because another very interesting thing that in 1980, not only that the state became power deficit in terms of generation, it became a revenue deficit, something which Benji would like to know. It lost control over its revenue budget and it became revenue deficit also. So both core strengths, the expenditure pattern or the demand pattern outstripped the supply pattern and went forward. These are mutually reinforcing problems. These two tragedies will meet together now when we move into the bankruptcy of the KSCB and people like who are pensioners of KSCB who will suffer enormously in the next 10 years, because once the DISCOM goes bankrupt, it's not like KSRTC's bankruptcy. It is not a bankruptcy into which state can step in, because their liabilities are of a different structure and all. Second thing you need to keep in mind is, like you said, the power mix of Kerala, 80% is imported power, and nearly all of that is coal. Kerala is buying at the moment from about 90 different generators. In fact, individual generators in the national grid, and that quantum comes to whatever 28 minus 21,000 million units. It's also important for those who are completely uninitiated. It's important to understand the difference between capacity and energy. The earlier speakers were using capacity, which is the capacity to produce, but which will be multiplied by the plant load factor, which determines the actual energy output measured in million units. 1 unit being kilowatt hour. So 1 megawatt actually gives you about, in a day, 1 megawatt capacity gives you 24,000 kilowatts. Kilowatt hour. Kilowatt hours. So that's roughly about 0.024 million units MU. So if you assume 330 production days, as it happens with most of the generators, you will get a figure of how many units will come from 1 megawatt of capacity, assuming that the plant is running through and through. The other criteria, very important thing, and see, the easiest way to understand this data is to go to Neti Aayog's energy dashboard. You can see it in your mobile phones. Take Neti Aayog's energy dashboard and look at it. They will give current data as on minute. What the power plants in India are doing is available in that particular portal. You will note one thing, that is, there are only two categories of power plants which achieve plant load. Plant load factor is out of unit of time, how much time the plant will work according to its design capacity. There are only two categories of power generation stations which perform at about 60%, meaning that 100 hours of operation, 60 hours it is giving the design power output. They are coal stations and nuclear stations. Nuclear, of course, is the most efficient, because they are, and this category of power, which probably technologists will explain, is called the prime commercial power, meaning schedulable power. Schedulable power is the category A grade commercial power which is traded. So all the rest of it, all the stock that solar will replace, what they call, their generation engineer will call it firm power. Firm power is limited. It is limited for a particular reason. I'll tell you why. PLF for hydropower plants will vary between 35 to 45. It is like 42% of PLF, meaning that when you want the plant in operation for 100 hours, you can get support from it because you know the reservoir's head determines the power production which it can command. Head is low. If it is dry for another month, Idikki's PLF is totally down. Solar is typically 25% of the plant established. 17.5. You know, that's it. Because there are a lot of people who used to walk to my chambers as chairman and director and tell me that they have a technology in hand, and if I use it, it will cure me of all my deficiencies in the power sector. And inherently, and then there is somebody who will be selling wave technology, and of course wind is there. Wind capacity is like 400 megawatt in Kerala. Is it 200? Because again, for wind plants to work, see, Kerala has only two sectors where the wind intensity, so that what is it, the knot factor, Namakkal and Attapadi, which have the enough density of the wind factor to give you commercial grade power. Now, you can buy a small wind turbine, 10 kilowatt turbine, and keep it on your rooftop and connect your domestic, add 2 kilowatts to your this thing. It will keep flying and give you a power. But that's not power which can be scheduled and sold in that sense. That's meaning I can produce it when I want it. Right. So this is very important to keep in mind. The two. Then there is some offshore wind off the coast of Vizhinjam, 100 kilometers into the sea. The tidal density, the density of wind is good enough to give you commercial power. But the problem here is, let me also tell you, in terms of the capital required to produce this power, the cheapest presently is obviously the vast solar exposure the country has, because the capacity, the capital is assessed in terms of a quantum called the long-term cost of energy, LCOE. Typically, you will find that solar is available at below 4 rupees. Some plants are 2.5. Hydel plants, when they are midstream, will give you power at 5 to 6 rupees. Coal will come at 4 to 8 rupees, and forgetting the, depending on the plant factor, 4 to 8 rupees. And all these others, wind, offshore, hydel, geothermal, everything is about 10 rupees. So when 4 is available, a utility is just not going to go into that even at an experimental basis. So these things don't exist. People walk around with all sorts of ideas. So I am just dispelling the notion that commercially schedulable power is to be priced between 4 to 6 rupees max. If you get 3 rupees per hour, you simply buy that. We were buying solar at 4.06, 4.4. And let me introduce this other concept, too important, which people like Ranjit will know. After the Electricity Act of 2003, utilities are graded on 2 parameters. One is called, the key commercial will be average cost of supply, ACOS, and the average revenue realized. So ARR 2020-2022, ACOS for KCB is something like 6.20, and rate of return is 5.4. So for every supplied unit, you can imagine the loss the utility is making. So utility reform has to start from that figure. If I am making, what is it, 57 plus almost 77 paise on a unit of power transacted. This is 2021, you have 23 figures now, which has widened the gap actually. So if I am losing 77 paise on a unit I am supplying you, the utility has to start analyzing where I am incurring the excess cost. Now let me introduce at least the European perspective. Europe has 55 electricity utilities. Coal and gas are their mainstays. Now solar and wind has come in a big way, particularly Western Europe. But if you read the commercials of those European utilities, and their gas, heating and power are bundled. Almost all utilities will handle gas and power and this thing together, heating together. Like in India, they are running their industry on a cost plus basis. And all of us are clear what cost plus pricing is. The proceeds, the cost of buying the commodity plus my cost of servicing it or vending it to you, the retailer, added with a 15% return on investment, that is the standard of the KSCRC, is added to be the cost of supply. Okay, in other words, the ARR has to be the cost of purchase of power plus my cost in vending it, meaning my staff cost, my capital cost, maintenance, O&M cost, etc., etc. Add it together and add a 15% return on investment and supply it to you. the 55 utilities made an average of 10 to 15% of profit, or rather return on the equity which they deployed. In India itself, about 1/3 of the utilities are incurring profits, 2/3 of them are in losses. So why are about 20 or 30% of utilities actually meeting their costs? In other words, they are meeting a cost with their rate of return, and why are 2/3 of them not able to meet? So that is where your fundamental pathology lies. Okay, I am not talking about the profitability of KSEB. The trouble is, when you are dispensing through a cost plus approach, you seem to be realizing a lower rate of return than the cost you are incurring to actually buy, unbundle the power and dispatch it to the client. So therefore you have a structural issue with your network, the way your finances are organized. You may not be being efficient with it, and if this gap is going on widening, the utility will run into losses posted over. It was 1,000 crores average, now it will be 2,000, 3,000, and therefore its borrowing will, and it will topple over. At one point of its credit will become too costly, therefore it will not be able to meet its liabilities towards employees, even liabilities towards power purchase, because 80% of it is scheduled from somebody else. So you have to keep retiring their bills, and therefore you will find it difficult to go forward. Now, let me give you a little bit of backgrounding on how the network behaves. And this is, I'm sorry about the electrical engineers because I'm giving it to them. The State Electricity Board, as you saw, is both set of generating stations and a network. A network means it connects about 1.3 crore individual connections, out of which 1 crore are in the domestic sector, and just about 30 lakhs are commercial plus industrial. Now, this is a very important thing you have to keep in mind, because that means 80% of the entire connection is domestic, and 80% of domestic consumes less than 200 units, right or not? So this imposes a major constraint on the utility. It is a very distributed, discrete network without sufficient industrial load. In fact, Kerala has only one EHT consumer in the line at the moment. Just one, is it not? The rest of them are only HT. The top 5 consumers, if you list, shipyard is the only, shipyard and PPCL, as the only 2 EHT consumers who are drawing at the highest level. Others are HTs, and about 20% of, about 70% of what we call industrial and commercial are actually shops and establishments. Okay. Therefore, it's a very discrete sort of supply I have to maintain, hugely in my 11 kV system. And just 1 second on the distribution design. The generation voltage, as they will know, is 11 kV. So when the power emerges from the generator, it goes to the 11 kV switchyard. That switchyard creates a 220. The import voltage is 400, and successively transformers are kept to bring it down to 220, 110, 66, 33. In some networks, all of them may not be there, and need to 11. And we know why they do that, because the 11 kV is susceptible to 30 to 40% loss of energy, whereas the 400 and 220 will preserve energy to about 90% when it is delivered. So therefore, when the series of transformers are stepping down and stepping up voltage to bring it down to the 11 is most rather loss prone. The problem is Kerala's vending happens at this level. Sub 11 kV is 80% of sale. It has a huge impact, because when I am selling wholly at the 11 kV system, it's very hard for any network to contain my transmission and distribution losses to the golden standard of 10 or 12%. It's a very controversial point I am making. Many of you may be aware, KSEB declares a T&D loss of 10.23, which they claim is something you have to clarify. They brought down from 13.5 to 10.23. This is supposed to be good. If a network with this characteristic, 1 crore people at the sub 11 kV system, practically nobody at the top end system, taking the higher voltages and operating shipyards and airports and industrial outfits, he is able to do 10.23. It's supposed to be a good parameter. And let me also tell you, to the credit of KSEB, after being chairman there, in at least 4 to 5 parameters, including your not only the T&D losses, in the disruption scale, in the realization of revenue, KSEB happens to be one of the top 4 companies in India. That has its own structural advantages also. So let's not say that KSEB is a big bully and they're all getting worried. It is not the case. In certain parameters of operations, KSEB excels also. I would say, but that is a minority case. And they have very serious problems with the more crucial figures. That is the problem. Probably they are good in the margins, but their ship is sinking. The flight mask is good. Probably they are. Few people are working very hard on the dashboard, but their hull is broken. Hull of finance is broken, so they're sinking very fast. The other issue with this claim, 10.23%, is something which I grappled. It's very crucial because one fine morning as chairman, I found that the Bureau of Energy Enterprises sent me a fine notice of rupees 20 lakhs because the KSEB had failed to adhere to the CEA regulations on estimating the T&D losses through third parties. KSEB is very good at giving figures. I have high esteem for the engineers who work there. You task them, they will have an answer. It's a different matter whether it is correct or wrong. They will have the figure. You push the commercial branch to say that why have you not done your energy audit properly as stipulated by the BE? Sir, it will be done by 5 o'clock and they will produce a figure, unquestionable figure. I don't have enough math in me to question that. But then I showed it to experts in BE because I established a parallel line. I knew that I can trust the KSEB engineers and the technologists, but I should always verify. So trust but verify. So I got experts in the BE. And they said that, sir, the problem with your figure is very good, but the problem is that is all human estimation done from a sample of your transforming capacity. What I need is a universal verification done by a third party. Right? I'm giving you some insight into what is going wrong with the network, and this is intimately related with your present problem. Problem is the efficiency of the network here, the interstate transmission which works at 400 kilowatt, to 11 depends on 2 factors. One is the HT to LT ratio should be 1:1 or whereabouts. For 1 kilometer of HT line, you need 1 kilometer of LT line. Kerala is at 4.51. So the problem here is you have 4.5 times the problem in your hand. Maybe I'm mistaken. So your LT lines exceed because of the structural problem, because the demand on the LT is so high. 4.51 is the ratio. And imagine that a unit of power is jumping at least 5 transformers to reach from the 11 kV generation voltage to your 220, whatever it's your 0.43. That means that the design loss in 5 transformers will be how much? The design parameter of the transformer which has come to the system, this is very crucial for you to realize. The design parameter, if I buy a Siemens transformer today, is 2%. Declared loss. So if your power is transmitted going through 5 transformers, what will be the minimum? The minimum is 10%. But when KSEB says 10.23%, the Bureau of Energy Efficiency said, sir, your experts are taking you for a walk. You see? I am giving you one example of what we should correct. When you claim that you have come down from 13% of T&D loss to 10.23%, do you know what is the commercial imperative? The utility is claiming that it has saved 700 crores. 1% means 250 crores. Is it not? The problem here is, I am coming to the issue. The network does not measure the power import, transmission, dispatch synchronously. Okay, synchronously. The measurement is completely all right here, 400 and 220, because these are high kilowatt substations. And KSEB does not, KSEB operates only 1,400, is it not? Just 1,400. All the rest of the 8 interstates are handled by the Power Grid Corporation on contract. That's the system. I'll just come to that because that's important to tell you in a very efficient way as to how this power transaction happens between the interstate networks. Because at the moment, country is one network. All right, power is procurable from any generator located anywhere within the country where we have the network intact. So therefore, here the measurement is all right. But when the measurement moves downwards through the system, the meterage becomes shaky, and most importantly, it becomes sample based, and the measurement does not happen synchronously. So one thing which Dr. Pauthanan will also tell you about, what we view the LT lines which we frequently see when you drive past any road, it's the tail end of a substation supply line. Then you have the distribution transformer which gives you your last line which connects your meter, your supply meter, whatever it is. The problem is the power includes the energy as well as a signal which maintains the protection which is being given to that particular line, which gives the feedback to the substation as to whether the line is intact. In theory, they should know if the signal is lost or the signal is compromised or if there is a trip or. The problem is our signals which measure this entire network are not synchronized with one another. That brings me to the question of smart meters, which are being discussed so much. One of the key features of the present reforms in the distribution is to see that the power dispatch in the sub 400 is measured synchronously and time stamped at every point. At every point. So that will be a very big step to actually link it with smart meters down to the consumer point. So that the measurement, and the biggest advantage of that is, now you only know disruptions. The question is your smart meter or the synchronized meters, digitals, would give you a time-stamped account of how the power supply behaved with respect to the design parameters, and therefore the loss which is happening either due to theft or due to equipment malfunction or transformer malfunction or feeder malfunction would be available to the manager real time. So now the generation side is linked real time, as the CE would know. System operations is able to look at the status of the generators, not only Kerala generators, all India, the performance of generators real time, and schedule power. It is taking the digital organization of the power sector down to the retail. So this limb is missing for Kerala. And there is a problem there because we started with it, but then people had different ideas. I'll come to that. That's a key element which people ignore in this whole process. Now, the last general point which I want to sort of impress before we act. It's a very crucial point you should know. Otherwise, the problem is people, as you know, people who work with industry know that one of the key drivers of any sort of commodity which power has become, because power used to be a part of service industry, but after this measurability and transactability has become maximum, particularly after 2003, it has all the behavior of a commodity in that sense. It's almost like stocks and shares, right? You can sell futures on power. So it has become a very sophisticated instrument because these units can be sold and purchased in present time and also in the future. So it's a very powerful instrument with its own Indian power exchanges, and there are 3-4 exchanges now bartering and trading power. And trading of power is an allowed activity under the 2003 Electricity Reforms Act. I'll mention the 2003 Act also before we come to consider Kerala's present issue. Now the demand curve which builds in a system is also very important, because the demand curve is to be responded to, right? Demand builds up in the system. And if you look at the Kerala demand, it works like this. 00 hours, 24 hours, right? And for the totally uninitiated, power trade or power sales happens in time stamps of 15 minutes. So therefore, there are 96 time stamps which work across the 24 hours, 00 to 24 hours. The Kerala problem is, Kerala suffers from what we call, no, I'm not putting it to scale, just to give the concept. Suppose 00 hours is here, it slowly builds up. Let's say this is 6 AM or something. Don't look at the scale. at 6 p.m. It shoots like a swan's neck. Okay, so you are at 2000 megawatt capacity, suddenly you are at 5000. So this happens between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. The trouble which KSEB underwent in this phase is that this peak stayed here because all the ACs were on at this point because of the extreme summer. So therefore it outstrips the capacity at that level. Transformers start tripping. So KSEB says 400 transformers were damaged in the whole process. That's a problem. Again, the issue there is that it is not measured. The problem is whether the connected load has exceeded that distribution transformer is not known to the KSEB. And there are several practices where there is tampering with the fuses because the repair crews do not want to come repeatedly. They will take off the liable few and put an aluminum screw around. So therefore, until the transformer gives away and bursts, the transformer will keep supplying just imagine if 25% of houses under the transformer, maybe 1000 consumers, 25% add their ACs in one season. Easily the transformer would have become outstripped by about 30%. The trouble is because the fuses are tampered with, the distribution staff does not know about it until the transformer melts away. So that's what the transformers melted away during this heavy season between these two time phases. But this imposes, this consumption pattern imposes, see this is not the case with the other states. You take Maharashtra, I'll close in a couple of minutes. You take Maharashtra, there is a peak happening here. Why? Industry starts taking into function, seeking firm power. And that peak goes on there, and probably the evening peak is shaped over. When the panel shifts to domestic, you will find that the industrial peak is disappearing, and therefore they actually suffer a reverse load, which works to our advantage, because when he is vacating, the sellers will direct the firm power which we will consume and feed the domestic grid, which is there. This imposes a major problem on KSEB because KSEB by and large is catered to a domestic demand, as I told you, discrete small demand, prone to heavy losses, which I don't think they declare completely technologically, and therefore their rate of return suffers in the whole process. One of the issues with KSEB is a chronic low demand which peaks up at evening. This imposes an additional constraint, and I'll tell you what. You cannot beat this with solar. Why? Because solar production, suppose solar is produced to the extent of 700 to 1000 megawatts now. That's the capacity. Solar is working here. It becomes good at 6 a.m. Peaks at 12, 1. But exactly when your swan's neck goes, it goes on. Right? This is a very major constraint because when I contract solar power at home, 1 unit, this 1 unit I am so sure that I will lose it at when I need it. Right? So when I contract 1 unit of solar, I need to create another 1 unit of firm power here. I have to bank 2 contracts. Otherwise, if you look at the SLDC computers, SLDC is the load dispatch center which is operated in the Kalamasheri substation. If the operator is looking at what will happen is, there is another problem with the solar plants which you and me are operating. The 10 kV, 6 kV, 5 kV plants. They are not visualized in the SLDC. So I don't know how much of solar is in the system at the moment. But the moment sun is going down, all those systems keeps, which means that will shoot super fast. Right. So it is unmeasured, and I'm at a difficulty at that point of time. So I think discrete solar, unmeasurable solar increasing would impose supply constraints because I will need a variety of purchase instruments on the day ahead market as well as the hour ahead market to sort of meet that particular demand to patch up with. One solution which I will immediately give along with this, which is offered by the CEA as well as the power exchanges, is to buy bundled solar power. When I say bundled solar power, you contract solar 400 megawatt capacity. When you bundle 400, you always take 400 coal also. So bundle contracts are available. KSEB has not started, I don't know whether they have taken a bundle contract. One was offered at the time, hydro plus solar. So because the power exchanges are so much alive, and you can mix various generation sources of power and contract it. So one of the definite ways for KCB to cater the demand is to get out of this idea that solar, hydro and coal are discrete entities, but call for combined contracts, 40% solar, 60% firm, and sort of supply the system. Now let me make a commercial point also here, this is very important. I think the commercial strategy of KCB has always been its Achilles heel. The problem with KCB is that it has a surplus of engineering expertise, not wedded to a commercial goal. This deficiency you will get to see. I must have attended as member over at least 50-60 boards of KCB and chaired probably 15, 20, 30 of them. So the trouble is, many of you may be surprised to know that the KCB, which has a sales of 18,000 crore and is by far the largest turnover company in Kerala, because it's a monopoly, it's not to the merit of it, it's not that they have gained that sales, because they are a monopoly. The KCB in the last 10 years did not have a financial director for a majority of board meetings attending in a full-time capacity. Even now, it is in charge, given to the chief financial officer. The moment it's a company and you are above 5,000 crores and your borrowing, your balance sheet, your P&L account are finalized by officers below the board level, the board loses perspective of where the company is moving financially. One of my limited contributions which I gained with a lot of muscle in the board was to get a full-time financial director to run it. 6 months after I quit, somebody saw to it that he will also leave. Okay, let's put it that way. And they went back into the technically very fine but commercially unyielding propositions. So that's one of the Achilles heel there. So let me come to the other issue with in general with the operations of KCB. And this is since you push the question as to why is KCB not breaking even with its cost. See, when the 2003 Act came, 2003 Act, Electricity Act came, that Act, if you remember, was responding to a very dismal situation in power sector development. The dismal situation was driven by the fact that the then government realized, I think it was Vajpayee to begin with, but then carried forward by Manmohan Singh and 1 and 2. They realized that if this was the case, at the time about 80,000 something megawatts of total demand, generators were not responding or investing. That was by and large because the state electricity boards, like KCB, 20 plus of them, they were incurring huge losses and therefore they were not paying the generators. So since the generators were not being paid, nobody was investing into generation, and this became an Achilles heel for the country's economy as a whole. That is when they decided to come in and break up the state-run boards which were holding the sway. Now, the Kerala Electricity Department was formed in 1940. Till 57 it was an electricity department of the, that is when Pallivazal came, possibly, before the KSEB days. Then the KSEB became a 3-member board. Okay, chairman plus 2 directors, 1 civil, 1 electrical. Even then there was no financial man around. Done without any financial acumen. So that is all right because state was investing. And it more or less functioned like a department, electricity department, with its hierarchy of engineers, A, C, everything is now there are 17 Cs, 17 or 18, 14 on the front, 4 on civil side, and you have an army of 2,000 assistant engineers, and then there is a huge commercial branch, 3,000 people, 1 senior superintendent, 3 assistants sitting in each section, 776 sections. Then you have maintenance subdivisions which go there, AXCs, some 200 of them. Then you have deputy Cs. He should be 400, 450 or something like that. I remember this correctly because they told an E that you are one amongst 440. Don't give me lessons. So he claimed that so then there are deputy Cs, 50 or 60, and that's a whole huge hierarchy. So basically a company of 4,000 officers and 27,000 workers. Okay, so this total strength is something like maybe I put it 31,000. 28,000. Let's give or take a few hundreds, it doesn't matter. The point is. Now you ask this important question as to, is the KSCBL overstaffed and is it overpaid?
No.
No?
No. Because the scenario
And
is...
it's good that you are breaking into discussion, so you will give the answer.
The thing is, we have a contribution of 47% of your total energy into the 1.4 crore of public, which you rightly said less than 200 units a month consumption. It is around 80 lakhs in addition to address his pimps and fancies, technological equipment. For the people, 28 lakh of people is less than 50 units a month. That means 1 unit. They are, to feed them, you require overseer, all those people require.
I agree and disagree with you.
And only 13% is the industrial consumption. Rest of this.
It's fully understood.
For them, there is no employees are required.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. If it were power mix was 50-50, you could have done it with 25,000 staff, right? I completely agree with you. But see, the problem lies here, and this we need to address ourselves. See, all
very simply address that you have to start implementing smart meter. It will give an alert. So you can chop out at least 18,000 lower stream people.
No, I'm not even asking. I'm not asking for 18,000 chop off. It's very very
that is possible with the remote monitoring. It's possible. You can contract it.
Let's come to that. You tell this to the workers and officers. I tell you the issue. Issue here is when we discuss the ACOS minus ARR, the average cost of supply. I told you if it were 6.27, this is 21 figure. Next year's figure would have come and told roughly it is almost now 7.87. Let us take the 8 rupees. The manpower cost comes to little over 2 rupees per unit, while the all India average is 90%. In other words, compared with the rest of the grids in India, the Kerala consumer pays 1 rupee excess on HR. Right?
It's completely overstaffed.
I am a little jammed because if I say that, if I say you can ask me the next question, you start as director and did nothing about it. It is what.
But sir, we are expecting 40% of share from renewable energy alone by 2030, according to the regulations. Is 40 power purchase obligation in renewable sector alone is 40%. So we are 4% right now, and we have so much of problem with the solar. And it is one.
I'll come to the issues with solar in a minute. That's something which I want to address discreetly. It's a separate issue. We'll try to address it. Of course, this will be developed by Dr. Pankaj, who is a born and brought up technologist. I am on overheard technology. This is what my directors were discussing. I have merely overheard it. I have absorbed what I need to manage the utility, take it forward. I tell you, the issue here is on record, because the manpower is to be finalized as a part of the average cost of supply when the utility moves its tariff petition under section 64, 62 or 64, 62 petition, I suppose. 62 petition to the KSCRC. It states approved manpower for a particular megawattage of power. And the finding of the Kerala State Electricity Regulatory Commission, the regulator is, we are overstaffed by 6,000 people. So we have to restructure and reduce it as we go along from a number like 33,000 to something in the order of 27,000. That's what step one restructure. One of the core areas in which you can actually attempt saving of personnel is the revenue match. Actually, KCB has cut on a lot of positions. To be fair to them, KCB is always a punching bag in the room. They have cut down about 1,000 positions in civil, Haidel. I doubt the logic of it because that adversely affected you also, but about 1,000 positions they did away with in the civil side, the gen side. But now, one of your opportunities is to look at how the commercial wing is organized. The technical can be addressed later because, see, let me give you an example of how costs work. Entire Delhi is supplied without section offices. There is no section office in Delhi. The Tata Power, which is up there, their organization is sees 1 or 2 at that level. They come down to executive level engineers who are not government standard engineers, that's it, for government seniority engineers. And thereafter they come to the subdivision. It's a 3-tier system. Subdivision covers more or less the subdivision of the Kerala subdivision. So many consumers. How many consumers will be in one subdivision? Huh? No, one subdivision. Let's take it like 5 lakhs. 30,000. Okay, this 30,000 consumer subdivision, you have one engineer sitting there and 5 repair vans, 5 mobiles, that's all. See, the idea is when power is vended like informatics, the retail will start behaving like more or less your retail for mobile phones. The problem is he is running 776 offices here, 13 staff, plus a 4-member commercial people who have now absolutely nothing to do. Because the moment the smart meter, the intelligent digital meter comes in the reception level, the sub 11 kV to the 400 kV, the digital network informs the utility automatically when a unit is dispatched. So these people have absolutely no work. And I am not talking about a small number. This number is about 3,000. This includes the boy who comes to actually transfer your meter data into his handheld device, which is absolutely unproductive activity. What is the point? He is repeating these many units, and printing out a internal paper. So, see, the point is there are redundancies run into the system entirely, which you need to address step by step. So, it is not that KCB does not know this. They have prepared beautiful restructuring reports on the distribution. Except generation. Generation is a very thin branch, 900 people. On distribution and the transmission side, they have prepared extremely beautiful bound reports which need to take to implementation. Why I found my way quickly out of the KCB is because I picked up these 2 reports, prepared my own annotated comments and went to the board to push them forward. A very interesting game was going on in KCB board. KCB is a strange organization. I can give you 100 stories on how strange it is. There is no secret in the board. Somehow there are 7 full-time directors, but what they have in their mind seems to be known to all the 350 staff who are in the headquarters even before the board meeting starts. So the board meeting is going on, you will get chits from the union saying that don't please take item number 4. And they will say, who gave this chit? So and so leader said, how does he know that item number 4 is this? So it is like that. It is like that. So it is all like it's like that. So when the transmission revamping report would be taken up, entire restructuring report, the by the union I practically mean the CITU right now, because they are 52% and they are the controlling body called single stakeholder we can negotiate with on behalf of all the other unions. They are not bad guys. They are fighting a cause, that's all right. I am still friends with them. Then you have the officers who are mainly, they claim that they are leftist unions, like they are the stronger union, then they have people who are aligned with almost every political party. The interesting thing I found in the board headquarters is there are 44 souls. KSCB is run by 7 full-time directors, including chairman. But there are 44 other souls who are appointed there only to keep a watch on the 7 directors. So, they can't tell they are doing it. Protection land, meaning that they are protected from all the vagaries of transfer. They are not moved out of. So one of the things, one of the mischiefs which I did there, the dislike, they used to define a station as the office and the cubicle which they had to occupy, which I recast, because I was sure after 2-3 months that with these 44 birds hanging around me, I cannot move. So when the general transfer was moving, I changed the guidelines as station means the district. So they had a right to work in Trivandrum district, but not Vaitiri. I pushed some 15-20 out in that that one go. It is very hard because the problem is hardly even before the ink in the minutes sort of dries up, you will find 5 or 6 people with representations already prepared against the decision and queuing up before you, and you invite them and they will start a chatter saying that so Mr. Chairman, you know, you have taken this very preposterous decision. I said, how the hell you come to know? You know, I just took it like half an hour back. Of course, it has leaked out of either the FTD or the outer office. He will start arguing and give a song and dance about it. So it's very difficult negotiating it. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the management of the KSCB, what I found was we struggled hard to prevail over our monitors. Let's put it that way. So the monitors, who are these monitors? I have tried to analyze them. They are vibrant people, they are organizers, they have their own interests, they have their own little interests which they are taking guard of. But one thing which I found uniformly, I used to interact with them, most of them week after week. I used to give them time at 5 p.m. They would come and discuss various issues. It's a singular lack of comprehending where the numbers are taking them. For example, when I told them that your pension will be difficult in 24-25, they said, it's like my numbers show that you will be stuck. Because you look at your, that's a whole story, I don't want to bore you with that. So, this is my last point which I would like to make. After that we can get to quickly close with what can be done. See, the mistake which Kerala did was, we bungled the 2003 Electricity Act change. People ask, Mr. Suresh asked this question as to, is KSCB enough? Should we not have more? The Electricity Act of 2003 actually opened the avenues for that.
Yes.
We did not do a thing about it until 2013. I think Mr. Muralidharan was minister when you finally corporatized. Because you were told that you won't be assisted. You came to a pressure point when you, in reality, you added only one thing to the KSCB, which was a 3-member government board. That is a letter L.
KSCB.
Right. What is continuing? Hiring is done entirely by the Kerala State Public Service Commission. Huge backlog. So it's the entire rank and file of the organization performs as a department. And I'm sorry to add this critical comment. The management as well as the workers try to get the best of the benefit of both worlds. When it comes to pay fixation, they will say that we are a company, we don't have to ask government. We have to only meet the Pay and Remuneration Committee, which is a subcommittee of the board. What the board awards us, we will take. Alright, so fine. But the MOU also says that whenever you make a charge on the permanent establishment, take prior permission from the government. Because government interest is involved. When the board became a company, government vested all the assets of the previous government board into government and revested it into the company, meaning the company started without any assets but got this valuation of about 35,000 crores assigned to it by the government. So the government divested itself of 35,000 crores of assets, including the mega structures of Idiki Dam and reservoir, worth 1,000 crores of electricity any day, and gave it to the board. And when it gave it, it said, if you incur permanent claims on the assets given to you, please take my prior permission. At that stage, the unions will say, we are a company. Alright, Pay and Remuneration Committee will follow the Companies Act 2013. We have had very serious differences on this to the extent of, let us say, frayed tempers in that, If you look at, I would say this is, what do I call this? If I can call it a failure of regulatory oversight of the supervising department, because they should not incur, because if you are operating on a 35,000 crore asset base and your total exposure, loan base, I don't know what the exact outstanding loans in the KSCB, it should be well over 30,000 crores. What is left of your assets? The only thing is, because you have borrowed from public sector entities and your revenue stream is keeping you afloat, that they are not claiming, inclined proceedings on you. The financials of the KSCB per se would show a broken company. And if at any point of time you start defaulting your loans, obviously they will take over the assets. Obviously your IRDAs and your long exposure people are going to come up and serve notices on you and decide to take over board control. And like any company, any sick company, directors are going to come from the related companies. See, as you rightly said, we tried hard at a series of reforms that will sort of bring KSCB the necessary elements of being a commercial entity. I could succeed in parts. Now, let me come to your pressing issue of how to get into that power deficit issue. I'll tell you the difficulty. And let me also tell you, in this room, in the confidence of this room, money is actually not an issue with KCB. Because the generation asset, and this is an important point. Now the 2003 Act said you please unbundle generation, transmission and distribution. It had a very sound logic in that. Why? Because generation practically involves, generation and transmission are practically high asset based creating activities. Okay. You are always building. O&M costs are very low. Whereas distribution is like a 95% O&M business. It's like, as I said, it's like vending mobile telephone. It's like, but the telecom tower erection and the sort of bandwidth procurement and the capital asset generation is a totally different ballgame. Now, why did KCB stay unbundled? God knows. It has no commercial reason, only to satisfy the, what can I say, the bond between the officers and the workers, whatever it was. So the problem is, people in generation need special, different kind of skills. KCB has a transfer policy, and it is very sad that a distribution assistant engineer would be picked up and posted as an assistant executive engineer into the, let us say, the ongoing, let us say, the nearest generating station. And his singular effort, generation is suffering hugely because his singular effort will be to revert back to the distribution side. One of the key the strategies which they wanted was to segregate generation as an asset creation business and a technology business. Because had Kerala segregated, Kerala's gen would have been one of the most profitable gens in entire India, with this kind of idle power, cheap idle power, it would have done particularly well. On the transmission side, SLDC will remain a state entity because that's where the power informatics control stays, so it will be a preserve of the state, and most of the transmission entities will be having state control. Coming to the DISCOMs, let me tell you, KCB hands can contradict me. Even now, there is absolutely no legal gap for a private company to come and take up as a distribution license. If Tata Power wants to come, they only need to file an application. It's automatic licensing. You just come and file an application with the KCRC and they will be made this. KCBL is not the only licensee in the state. There are 8 or 9 different licenses operating, just specific geographies. Technopark is their own license. Indian Railways wants to be their own licensee, which we are resisting because this is a lucrative segment. We don't want them to buy and bring power. So what I am trying to tell you is this unbundling cannot wait now. This is my simple assessment. Because KCB's skill sets in DISCOM are not transferable to Gen, and because of the high value Gen which we have, at one stage, the then NTPC chairman, Mr. Gurdeep Singh, veteran in the power sector, he has 45 years. He started as a plant engineer in thermal, worked his way up, a very astute engineer, and somehow he took a liking for me, and whenever I used to go to Delhi, I used to meet him and try to learn from him. At one stage he told me, I'll wipe out the outstanding debt burden of KCB. I'll give you 10,000 crores. 10,000 crores. Take it. Allow me a 50% stake in your Gen. So that, these are the huge structural things which you should start looking at. Generation assets which may be 15,000 crore. I come in and push 10,000 crores into you. Please share your generation revenue with me. 50% or 60-40 share. Let's make a new company, KCBL NTPC.
And still there will be a potential for 17% upgradation in the generation sector and hydrogen.
Totally. So I told you there is no money problem in that. If you want to disinvest the equity of KCBL to the extent of 30%, it will fetch you 15,000 crores easily. So there is no issue out there. But the problem is you should see you should have the vision of taking that company across the next 10 years. And why I am saying that's important is because Kerala has untapped hydel potential which KCBL is unable to do. KCBL is developing 200 megawatts of hydel. You have Budatang at Dottiar to Palivasal to all this. And I have dirtied my hands with all these complex hydel construction programs, and I can tell you why each of them is not fair. Which generation company in the world will invest 150 crores into building a dam? Put the reservoir pits, put the generation pits, and wait for generators for 6 years. No company would do that. You have 150 crores you have buried into the Budatang barrage.
Right? We have experience even in medical colleges Paragon Medical College, 300 crore, 15 years it is studying.
But medical college does not bring in the revenue. This is money, you know.
Yes, that's it.
The KCB does not realize that. You need 3 8-megawatt generators which you order to a consortium. This is something which I worked for about a year and a half. And still my successor director board went into decision freeze. A consortium of Chinese and a Coimbatore company quoted for the generators. 8 megawatt is a very small generator. Mind you, Idiki is 130 apiece and Idiki 2 is 200 megawatts apiece. These 8 megawatt puny generators, they were manufactured in Hunan when the COVID outbreak started. Now during the COVID outbreak, the Indian partner of the consortium became bankrupt for various other reasons. Now in a consortium, if one partner goes bankrupt and the parent, the original equipment manufacturer is still willing to supply you with the equipment, a sensible corporation will just eject the second consortium partner and order it from there. We had lengthy night-long discussions with the Chinese counterparts through translators. I got the Indian embassy involved. They went there, their commercial discussed, they were ready to dispatch. The only thing they wanted is finish this contract, make an FOB, a letter of credit payment towards me. It's a very small sum, like 15 crores a piece. We agreed to it. I signed the supplementary agreement, then I got out of KCB. The next team went in and looked and they developed cold feet. So as a result, they felt that they can cancel the whole consortium contract and start rebidding, which was a minority view in the director board. But mind you, with 150 crores idling for want of 15 crores, 10%, the 24 megawatt generation is.
Wait for 8 years.
They decided to wait. Now tell me, which commercial generation company will do this? I'll give you one more example. This is a scale of, if you can call it inefficiency, you know, that lack of vision to go forward. People feared vigilance case. I said, we'll face the case. What is the whole issue? You put 150 crores down the drain, in a huge barrage having constructed. Only the generators have to move into the pits. And mind you, they are ready to dispatch. Now, if you fail to take them, the Hunan company is going to sue KCB for damages. That is another fallout. Now, the fun of it is, those who have been managing generation would know, generators are built custom to the pit. So only after the civil structure is complete, the generators would be started to, built. And now if you order it, it will take another 4 years to be built. So for that you are 150 crore. Only hilarious case where the Pichi reservoir, there is an outlet valve, valve of the irrigation department, not of the penstock. I believe it's, you can call it the penstock. The penstocks are operated by the irrigation department, which needed 2 crores of rupees to sort of replace. Irrigation department waited for 3 years. So when it came to my attention, I said, look, because of the lack of the valve, you are losing one generator's capacity. And I asked them to work out how many months of production would actually pay for the valve. It was just 2.5 months. So we wrote to the case.
That particular term is overflowing all the time.
You are losing water through all the sides. And because of the diversion valve, you are losing XMUs of power. So we told the case, the irrigation chief engineer, you please get out of the way, we will replace it. Because he is not getting any money to do that. So we spent 2 crores and replaced the valve and restored the generation. Just examples on how the generation business practically lacks the competence to sort of do that. And coming to this last question of what should you do to actually overcome this present shortage. My prescription is the following. Stay on steady growth path with the solar, that's fine. But the bedrock of assuring effectiveness of the solar will be to get into very solid market-based and medium-term instruments to secure the firm power. In fact, one of the things I pushed the power department to do was to invest into Navy lignite, which is the second largest thermal producer in India, and also NTPC, by actually buying their generators. Now you can schedule power on long-term, medium contracts, that is one thing. You spend 350 crores, NLC2 is getting commissioned in Navy, they will sell you one generator, meaning you pay NLC for the generator. The advantage is that generator is reserved, just like your combined cycle plant for Kerala, that's owned by Kerala.
But that will give a base load.
Base load it will give. So since solar is building up on the other side, you keep your generators here. Sterlite plant was selling due to bankruptcy in Jharkhand. I had advised government to buy 400 crores. But then again, Malayaligalanallo. They thought for a while and said, "Namukku generation Keralathinagathanne madi." I said, "You don't know. You are going to get power cheap by 50%. Take it. Because at 15% transmission cost, you are going to get it." So I'll close the story with one presentation I was unfortunate to make. So this, I can't quote name the person. You should not record it or show me in poor light elsewhere. So once the whole discussion on where to source power matured at one point, particular functionary told me that you are contracting costlier coal and solar at 4, whereas the Idiki plant is giving at 80 paise per unit. I immediately told him that plant is 45 years old and therefore the plant value is 0. So we are getting power at merely the staff cost. So you cannot compare one and one. So this debate grew up seriously. So the argument was that you should invest more and more into hydel. So I said, hydel I will invest, but not at 20 rupees per unit, as I am experiencing right now. So then I took up the challenge and I collected from the National Repository about 150 projects being developed across India. Hydel, coal, thermal, everything put together. And from the cheapest to the costliest, I arrayed as a PowerPoint presentation. And I went and banked, showing what are the purchase options possible with this development on long-term energy cost basis. So I finished the presentation. The last slide was Idiki, 80. So any commercial man who would look at it is say reserve your coal and reserve your, and take the base load and develop solar if to the extent you can. But when the slide reached Idiki, the functionary said, "Look, I told you, why did you waste all this time? Idiki is 80, so let us invest into hydel." I said, that will become 80 only after 40 years. So he said, "But after 40 years it will become 80. So you please invest in it." ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞ ചുരുക്കം ഇത്ര മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ. എനിക്കൊരു സംശയം, മലയാളികൾ are they geared for bankruptcy and losses? Do they prefer that? എന്ന് എനിക്കൊരു സംശയം. ഞാനിങ്ങനെ ചോദിക്കാം, എന്താ നിങ്ങളുടെ പരിപാടി? Basically you are geared to bankruptcy. അത് എത്രയും പെട്ടെന്ന് അവർ കൈവരിക്കുന്നത്. നമ്മൾ എത്ര പറഞ്ഞു കൊടുത്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാലും മെനക്കെട്ടാലും രക്ഷയില്ല. So this is the Ranjit knows the story. It's not that we have not been trying. So I tried to capture, I'm sorry that I took more time, but what I thought was germane to your discussion. I think Pavitra will develop on this.
So it was not a talk, but it was a class. And everybody enjoyed it very well. Welcoming Dr. Pavitra.
ഡോക്ടർ ജി പവിത്രൻ 1954 തിരുവനന്തപുരത്ത് ജനനം. കേരള സർവകലാശാലയിൽ നിന്ന് 1974 8ാം റാങ്കോടെ BSc ഇലക്ട്രിക്കൽ എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് ബിരുദവും 77 1ാം റാങ്കോടെ MSc ഇലക്ട്രിക്കൽ എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് ബിരുദവും നേടി. KSEB അസിസ്റ്റന്റ് എഞ്ചിനീയറായി ഉദ്യോഗത്തിൽ പ്രവേശിച്ച അദ്ദേഹം 31 വർഷത്തെ സേവനത്തിനു ശേഷം 2009 ചീഫ് എഞ്ചിനീയറായി വിരമിച്ചു. ശേഷം അധ്യാപന രംഗത്ത് വ്യാപൃതനായ ഡോക്ടർ പവിത്രൻ സംസ്ഥാനത്തെ വിവിധ എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് കോളേജുകളിൽ അധ്യാപകനായും പ്രിൻസിപ്പലായും സേവനമനുഷ്ഠിച്ചു. ഇപ്പോൾ തിരുവനന്തപുരത്ത് സാരാഭായ് ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ഓഫ് സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജിയുടെ പ്രിൻസിപ്പലായി പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നു. കേരളത്തിലെ വൈദ്യുതി പ്രസരണ വിതരണ രംഗത്തെ സവിശേഷതകളെയും പ്രശ്നങ്ങളെയും സംബന്ധിച്ച് ആഴത്തിൽ ഗവേഷണം നടത്തിയിട്ടുള്ള വിദഗ്ധനാണ് ഡോക്ടർ പവിത്രൻ. ദേശീയ അന്തർദേശീയ സെമിനാറുകളിൽ 80ഓളം പേപ്പറുകൾ അദ്ദേഹം അവതരിപ്പിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഡോക്ടർ ജി പവിത്രനെ നേതി നേതിയുടെ ഈ ചടങ്ങിലേക്ക് ഹാർദമായി സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു.
Good evening, respected organizers of the symposium, Dr. Ashok, other dignitaries, and my friends. I feel that it's a privilege to have a presentation along with an expert like Dr. P. Ashok, and I am actually honored by that. I thank for the organizers for that.
I'll tell you a few things about the electricity generation. Actually, since most of you maybe know that, the generation is usually made at 11 kV and it is stepped up to 110 kV, 220 kV or 400 kV, and for reducing the transmission losses, and it is brought to the substations and it will be reduced to lower levels, and in smaller substations it will be reduced to 11 kV, and this 11 kV will be brought through streets, and on streets the transformers will be kept, and it will be converting the 11 kV to 400 kV, 400 volt 3 phase and 230 volt single phase, and it will be brought to the houses of the consumers. And compared to other states, the domestic consumption in Kerala is much higher, as Dr. Sohar has said, has exceeded 1 crore domestic consumers, and the industrial consumption is far lesser, and the second is commercial consumption, and then only comes the industry consumption. Industries, as you all of you know, industries are much, there are no much major industries in Kerala compared to the other states in India. That's one of the factors which Dr. Asher has shown the load curve. Up to 6 p.m. it will be almost flat, and after 6 p.m. it shoots up. Nowadays, previously there are only one peak load. That is from 6 a.m. from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. That is evening hours. Now there are 2 peaks, especially since 2024 onwards. That is after 6 to 10 p.m. one peak, and from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. another peak. And then now the funny thing is that the second peak is having the maximum demand. That is mainly due to the heavy usage of air conditioners. Up to 10 p.m. people may be using lighting rods, TV, etc., fan, etc. And after that they will go to bed and they will switch on the AC. And then in one house there may be 2 or 3 or more air conditioners, and that is why the second peak load is shooting up. As per the latest estimate, the peak load was 5,797. That's nearly 6,000 megawatt. And as you know, the installed capacity in Kerala is much lesser than 4,000 megawatt. That I will go through in my slides. The first hydro station, that hydroelectric station in India, was established in 1897 with a capacity of 200 kilowatts, not megawatt, 200 kilowatt at Darjeeling. The first powerhouse with a significant capacity of 4 megawatts was commissioned at Shivasamudra in Karnataka. Kerala has entered the era of power generation when the Kannandevan company established a small hydroelectric station in Mudirapura River during 1900. The first hydroelectric station with a significant capacity of 5 megawatt was commissioned on 1940 at Vallivasan in Mudirapura River. Even the old people used to say, I am getting current from Vallivasan. That's it. Power sector of Kerala. Major factors of increased power demand are household consumption growth, rural electrification, commercial growth, etc. As already mentioned, the domestic consumption is exceeding all the other demands. Kerala is facing power shortage, and the condition is worse during the peak load hours, that is 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. There is a normal peak load hours, and for the summer season it is there is another peak, that is 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. due to the heavy usage of air conditioners. Kerala has no major thermal, nuclear or petroleum resources except hydro sources, solar and other non-conventional sources of energy. At present, electricity generation in Kerala is less than 30%, and importing more than 70% of its energy requirement from outside Kerala, namely central sector power stations, independent power producers, etc. As Dr. Ashok rightly said, from 1976 to I think 1980s, Kerala has been exporting power to neighboring states, and the first industrial line of Idukki, Mysore, 220 kV line came during that period, and at that time we were exporting power, and KCB was giving incentive to consumers who are using more power. If you are using more, at that time the tariff was around 25 to 30 paise. If you are using more power, your rate will be reduced to 10 paise per unit. That was the condition during 76 to the early 80s. Now the that has totally changed. Mainly, I will tell you that due to the impact of Gulf money, that may be one of the reasons why the consumption of Kerala has increased much when compared, domestic consumption increased much when compared to the neighboring states. To cater the ever-increasing demand for power, large centralized power stations such as hydel generating stations, thermal stations, grid-connected solar stations, nuclear stations, gas turbine plants, etc. have to be established. Apart from major stations, large number of grid-connected solar stations, medium, small and mini hydel power stations shall also be established to meet the ever-growing demand for power. In Kerala, after the Idukki and Shavadagiri, we were not able to commission major hydroelectric stations. The main reason is due to the opposition from the Ministry of Environment and Forests and the opposition from the public also. Apart from the development of hydro sources, Kerala shall establish pit-head stations at states having coal fields, either individually or by joint ventures with other states or utilities or TPC or central or private sector organizations. Pit-head stations is near the coal fields. You can invest money, you can establish individually or with other consortium as some generating stations and bring power to Kerala by ultra high voltage or extra high voltage or HV high voltage DC transmission system to Kerala and distribute here. Setting up of nuclear stations, either inside the state or established in the same as a joint venture with nuclear power corporation in other states also is considered. In Kerala it may be difficult to establish nuclear power stations due to the high density of population. So KCB Limited can try for establish the same in association with NTC and others in other states and be powered by USB or ESP transmission lines. Yes, please. The installed capacity and number of consumers of state grew from 38 megawatt and 0.28 lakh respectively in 1950s to 2862 megawatt and 128 lakhs respectively by 2020. Now the installed capacity of KSEB is around 3,795.675 megawatt plus private generation is also there. That is will be only to around 6,000 megawatt. As per the 20th electric power survey conducted by the Central Electricity Authority, maximum demand for Kerala is estimated as 5291 megawatt for 2025 and 631 megawatt for 2030 and 697 megawatt for 2032. The annual energy requirement for these years are 30,729, 39,464 and 42,885 megawatt MBR respectively. But as you have seen through media, now the actual demand and energy requirements have already exceeded the forecast. So I think we should find more, try to get more power from external agencies to distribute to the Kerala consumers. These forecasts may go up considering the rapid introduction of a lot of electric cars, buses, scooters and other electric vehicles which may require more electricity to charge for their daily operations. Now the biggest, many people are charging their cars, cars and scooters in the evening hours. That's also increasing the peak load of the system. The above forecast highlights the need for increased the internal generation as well as purchasing more power from outside Canada. These are the statement of particulars. I don't want to go into in details. The word figure. Next please. Next please. As per the 19th power survey, the forecast energy requirement was around 32,183 for 2024. And for 2037 it will be nearly 53,000 MB. Yes. Forecast week demand also, for 2024 it was 5,031, but it has exceeded, it has reached nearly 5,900 now. And for 2037 it is expected that it will be nearly 7,725 megawatts. This is as per the latest 2030 power survey. Here, as per the survey, for 2024, the total energy consumption is expected to be 25,534. That also exceeded. And the maximum demand was 4,808 megawatt. We have already exceeded to 5,900 megawatts. This is the energy consumption profile of 21-22 and 2031-32. You can see that domestic consumption is much more when compared to commercial and other consumers. Industrial 15%, irrigation only 2%, other 6%. This is the Kerala power system as of 31/3/2024. Hydro 2,179, thermal 836, wind 70, solar 1,009. Total it is 3,795.675 as on today.
This 1,009 is including Kayangulam, sir? Kayangulam?
Yeah, that 530.
So that is solar is 1,000.
Solar, that's solar. Solar.
No, now it is, that agreement is there that it is floating solar is 600 where the renewable for purchase obligation is met in 2023. And that includes 1,009.
This is not included here. Not included.
I think included is
Okay. That's right. This is the installed capacity growth from 2016 onwards to 2024. It is from 2,880, now it is 3,755. Power development strategies. The present shortage in peak demand is about 500 megawatts as per the 20th power survey. The shortage will be more than 1,000 megawatts if all consumers are supplied electricity at or near specified voltage and frequency. As you all of you know, in many places the voltage is low and frequency is also not with 50 Hz, it is around 49 point something in many areas. The estimated hydro potential of Kerala, including mini micro, is about 4,000 megawatts.
Is it additional potential?
No, total potential. But we will not be able to harness it. The main reason is due to opposition from the Ministry of Forest and the opposition from the public also. Kerala has harnessed only about half of this potential. And then for 4,000 is total. We have harnessed only around 22,000 megawatts. Kerala shall establish hydro stations at least to the tune of 1,000 megawatts at the earliest for stabilizing the cost of electricity. Actually, the strategy is to split up major hydro stations into small stations so that it will be easy to get clearance from the Ministry of Environment and Forests and the opposition from the public also. That by splitting major stations, small stations, but the reason, but that would make the cost of per unit cost to a higher side. More number of grid connected solar stations, including rooftop solar installations, shall be established to bridge the gap in the internal generation and import or purchase of power. You are establishing more number of stations, at least you can reduce the purchase at least during the daytime. Adequate maintenance facilities shall be arranged from each electrical section for the effective functioning of these installations. Many of the solar stations, after installation, they are not doing much maintenance, so their emissions will come low. Wind generation can also be increased by harnessing all possibilities. The pace of wind generation is not as expected. We have only around 70 megawatts of wind generation in Kerala. While in Tamil Nadu, I think it has exceeded 7,000 megawatts also. More than 7,000 megawatts. Maximum surrender share shall be availed or purchased from IPPs, independent power producers, or ISGs, that is interstate generating stations, especially during the peak load hours for improving the voltage profile. We are not getting more power, the voltage profile will come down due to the heavy usage of consumers. Initiatives shall be taken to establish features conversation through private or joint participation with the concerned states or NTPC and bring power through extra high voltage or ultra high voltage or HP high voltage DC transmission lines. Efforts shall be taken by NPC and states to collect funds from the people through debentures, shares, etc. for establishing more number of nuclear power plants in the not only Kerala, outside. Proposals for stabilizing generation to Kerala. The proposals for establishing more number of rooftop grid connected solar stations shall be expedited. Efforts shall be taken to add more than 5,000 megawatts of grid connected solar stations within the next 5 years. The present Saura within KCL shall be expanded to establish more number of grid connected stations, including rooftop and floating solar stations, and utilizing the maximum unutilized land area for establishing grid connected stations. The idea of floating solar stations was mooted by me during 1995 also. And I gave the proposals and presented the paper in the National Seminar conducted by the Central Power Research Institute. But even though I took my initiative, it didn't come up. Recently, I think some 3 years back, that come at Banasura Dam. And more number of these floating stations can be established in many of our reservoirs and lakes and ponds also. There shall also be addressed the control of the operation and maintenance of existing as well as future grid connected solar stations by engaging either KCB staff or by subcontracting the same, so that the efficiency of solar installations can be increased. Each electrical section shall also take the responsibilities of maintenance of private, rooftop and other solar stations. Steps shall be taken to increase more number of co-generation plants under IPPs in the state or to increase installed capacity. Major industries can contribute electricity by their co-generation by using the extra steam which they are having. Efforts will be taken to increase capacity addition in the existing generation stations of KCGA. The capacity addition is required since we have to give more power during the peak load hours. If more number of generators can be added, we can increase the power requirement during the peak load hours. The number of generators in the existing or proposed tidal stations shall be increased for catering the peak demand. Pumped storage tanks shall also be established to meet the peak demand. If you are having surplus power during the daytime or even during the late hours of the night. That the same can be used to pump the water to a dam back and get it back during the peak load. More number of 14 solar stations shall be established during this generation of electricity. Planning shall be done on a 50-year or at least 30-year perspective, considering the rapid growth of solar installations. Nowadays, more number of solar stations are coming, and as solar plants can mostly deliver power only during the daytime, more emphasis shall be done to generate or import power to cater the needs of consumers during the peak load hours. As Dr. Ashok told, solar can generate only during the daytime. While our peak is shooting after 6 p.m. By 6 p.m. our peak load is shooting. So at that time, KCB has to get power from outside Kerala as well as increase in the internal generation. Then only you can give the power to the consumers. The tariff of maximum number of consumers should be on the basis of TOD metering system. TOD means time of the day. That is 6 to 18 hours one slot, 18 to 22 another slot, 22 hours to 6 a.m. another slot. Actually, this is being followed for industries and major consumers. The reason is that, suppose you are, I'll tell you about the solar controversy. Suppose I am having a solar plant of 5 kW. I will be supplying to it during the day, maybe some 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. And I will be using maximum amount of energy during the night time, from 6 to 10 p.m. or even afterwards. So, when the case, and I am selling to KCB, I may be getting around ₹3 for my energy. But KCB, while supplying the same power to me, they are buying at the rate of ₹9 or ₹10 or ₹14 from outside and supplying to me. That is the difference why the people are updating. Actually, the public relations of KCB should have intimated these things to the public. Then this controversy would not have come. I think I explained again. During the daytime, I will be supplying power to the KCB grid. And at the rate of say around ₹3. But for the power which I am using in the night time, KCB is getting power from outside agencies at the rate of from ₹9 to ₹14 or even higher. But KCB is getting power at the rate of ₹10 or ₹14 on EST side. EST side, that is 400 kV or 20 kV side. And doing all this transformer to shutting down facilities, etc., and giving me at 230 watts to my house. That difference is coming. Now, major consumers are having giving TOD meters, time of the day meters. There is a controversy which is going on at present. Many micro hydro projects were earmarked by the government for implementation under IPP or CPP route through BT process. KCB has not had role in the allotment of implementation of these projects except for entering into power purchase agreement with these developers. The major cause for shortfall in planned capacity addition is a delay associated with the environmental clearance and land acquisition for hydro projects which were beyond the control of the board. I tell you one thing about it. Before joining KCB as assistant engineer in during 1978, I heard that Puyallutti project is going to come. Before my joining to KCB, that I joined KCB only during 1978. At that time I heard that the Puyallutti project is coming. Still, where's it? After 40 or 45, still is that, it is not settled. Still many hydro stations have not been started. There is a problem with the hydro stations in Kerala. Many large and medium-sized hydro projects are held up due to these issues. That established more number of mini stations in selected locations in Kerala. In Kerala, compared to Tamil Nadu, we don't have that much potential. We have only a few places like Ramakamad, Palakkad, that area which have more wind potential. Suppose if you are putting a windmill on your rooftop, will you get power? No, that's not the change. It is applicable only where the wind power is available. Harnessing other non-conventional sources of energy like generating electricity from wood, energy plantations, biowaste, etc. during this internal generation. But they can contribute only a few of the energy requirements. Kerala is also depending on power allocation from various central generating stations and IPPs. KCB shall try to get more power allocation from central generating stations and enter agreements with IPPs so as to get power at lower cost. That's a strategy KCB has to adopt to get the electricity at a lower cost. You have to negotiate with people and get bid, etc. for that. Okay. To beat the increased demand of power in the state, in future, proposed shall be mounted to construct the major thermal power plants within the state and outside state also. Efforts shall be taken to establish a gas-based power plant at Dharmapuram by utilizing the natural. That is the wrong thing which KCB did. It was actually it was earmarked for establishing a gas station at Dharmapuram. When KCB gave it to the government at 7,000 rupees, at the same time, during that period, the cost per cent cost of land in that area was more than 3 lakhs. Instead of getting this 100 acres from KCB, the government would have given some 100 acres in some other area. That barter system should have done. What is the point of getting there? Should have given it to government free of cost, rather than give it 10,000 rupees per month. Okay, let's take this. Need for strengthening transmission distribution system. Actually, the transmission distribution system should be strengthened since you have to get power from outside and supply the power to the consumers. Transmission lines shall not be loaded beyond the sublimate loading level. That KCB is following that pattern since long time. They are loading too much. Steps shall be taken to increase the voltage of Madakapada, that is HVDC substation from 320 kV DC to 500 kV DC or USB DC in the next phase for better availing, central share and purchase from IPPs and ISDs. You have to start the time now itself. HVDC substation shall be well connected with the major grid substations in the 7 South India as well as in India. More number of EST substations shall be established along with connected transmission system. That's it. All future transport lines shall be constructed either as multi-circuit or multi-circuit roads with provisions for design. Actually, this multi-circuit concept was given. Actually, I have given the concept during 1989 itself, and I presented platform the National Power System Conference during 1989 regarding the requirement of multi-circuit and multi-voltage multi-circuit towers. And after 10 years also, the scientific camp was established by KCB in Thrissur, Panna, 220 kV line. Many of the old transport lines are to be renovated with the multi-circuit or multi-voltage provisions. Many of the systems have to be renovated and the voltage should be enhanced. All old substations shall be renovated or operated for safety and reliability. Hotline maintenance procedures shall be adopted for reliability and adequate personnel to be trained with for maintaining the transmission system. In many of the developed countries, they are not switching off the lines. Even ST and ESC lines, they are doing on the lines. Without switching off the lines, they are doing the maintenance. Such maintenance facilities should be implemented by KCB. For reducing transmission distribution losses, adequate number of capacitors shall be added to the system and shall be properly monitored. Existing capacitors, etc. shall be maintained by installation shall be and monitoring shall be done by senior engineers of KCB with necessary infrastructure facilities. This is the Kerala Transport System as of 2023. last year. Yes. Actually, KCB is only one major political substation, and 5 substations are owned by Power Corporation of India Limited, PGCIL. And 320 is the DC substation, HVDC substation, 220 and others are AC only. And we have, in Kerala, we have 424 substations plus 8 substations owned by PGCIL. Total transformation capacity is also 25,555 plus 4,005 of PGCIL. Next please. The distribution system shall be strengthened to achieve better voltage, reliability and customer satisfaction. The present STA is to FT ratio shall be reduced from the 1:4 to at least 1:2. Dr. Shaw is already saying that. And finally, 1:1. That is internationally, the countries are having the ratio of nearly 1:1. So that the reliability and voltage will be better. Adequate number of transformers shall be established. Then adequate personnel shall be entrusted. Safety of the staff as well as the public shall be ensured by implementing modern technology and techniques available. We are given safety. We will see every month 1 or 2 persons associated with the board is either contract or board staff is dying due to by shocking. 3 years before also you have the newspapers. But actually they are not observing the safety procedures. Whenever they are flying a post, they are supposed to wear the belt and all the sort of things. Even if he is falling down, it will be caught on the belt. Many procedures are there. Mainly these people are dying due to, not only due to shock, mainly by falling down from that height. When you are if you are jumping from that level, you will not die. But when you are getting a shock, you will not be losing your balance. Normally you will be landing on that, but at that time you will be landing on back or head. So he will die. That's the one of the main reasons. So many of the dying persons are dying due to this. Okay, next thing. Energy conservation. But for better utilization of energy and effective utilization of energy sources, efforts shall be taken for the conservation of energy in all sectors of life. Wastage of energy can be minimized by using energy efficient appliances or equipment and by popularization of energy conservation measures. Initiation of energy concern society, energy management center, unearthed electrical infrastructure, KCBN are honorable. Actually, I was one of the founder members of the Energy Conservation Society, and I was the previous president of Energy Conservation Society, and present there its patron also. It's a society actually devoted for the conservation of energy in India. So I request people can associate with Energy Conservation Society. KCB shall address energy conservation and demand side management with a separate team. Previously, KCB was having a separate team. Now I think that being was abolished. Direct use of non-conventional source of energy for cooking, drying, water pumping, etc. shall be popularized. Solar cooking, etc. I don't want to explain further. Street lights may be switched off whenever it is getting dark, and may be switched off as and when LED light comes in the morning by automatic switching is okay. But nowadays, it may be 5:45, street lights will go on. That should not happen. More emphasis shall be made to ask the consumers to reduce electricity usage during peak load hours, which can partially be achieved by implementing tariff and with COD meeting and further partially by implementing tariff with COD meeting for maximum consumers. Recently, the update by the government and by KCB, many of the people have they have reduced the load and avoided load shedding in many of the areas in state. At present, 18 sea losses shall be reduced from the present level of 12% to less than 9% only. In many of the developed cities, less than 5% or 4%. Singapore it was 4% some 3 years back. Now I think it is around 4% there. The main reasons for losses in the system are weak and inadequate T&D system, long distribution lines, too many transformation stages, overloading, increase in low power factor load, poor quality of construction, unmetered supply to certain section of society, defective meters, and theft of energy. it shall be identified as immediate remedial action shall be taken for saving the precious energy. That shall be identified and strict remedial action shall be done to eradicate such process. KCPA is having a better anti-portal score and it is working efficiently. Then all of non-conventional energy source energy. Non-conventional sources shall be harnessed and activation. Renewable energy has critical part to play in meeting the growing energy needs of the, especially in rural areas. Actually, solar was also considered as non-conventional. Now it is changed to a conventional source of energy. So it's not a good. Large scale development of renewable energy sources and strengthen the energy security by reducing imports based on the fossil fuel. It will also reduce the global warming to a great extent. Non-conventional source of energy is presently becoming more competitive and it is pattern of availability by heavy and the shooting costs of fossil fuels and petroleum products. Okay, thank you. If you want to speed up, so, വൈൻഡപ്പ് ചെയ്യാണ്. അതിന് മുമ്പ് അശോക് സാറിൻ്റെ സ്റ്റേജിലേക്ക് വരിക. ഇവർ രണ്ടുപേർക്കും മൊമെന്റോ കൊടുക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി ശ്രീ രഞ്ജിത്ത് കാർത്തികേയനെയും അഡ്വക്കേറ്റ് സുരേഷ് കുമാറിനെയും പ്രദേശത്തിയുടെ തിരഞ്ഞെടുത്ത ലേഖനങ്ങൾ കാഫ സുരേന്ദ്രൻ സംഗ്രഹിച്ചതാണ്. Any question answer? Only very few time.
Sir, solar energy produce ചെയ്യുന്ന ഈ ഡേറ്റ എന്തായിട്ട് ഒരു വിഷയമുള്ളത്. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ബെറ്റ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് ഹൈഡ്രോ ഇലക്ട്രിക് ആ സമയത്ത് റെഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് ഡേ ടൈമിൽ സോളാർ എന്നുള്ള ഒരു സജഷൻ. രണ്ടാമത്തെ സജഷൻ, ഈ സോളാറിന് ജസ്റ്റ് 2.5 rupees എന്താ കൊടുക്കുന്നുള്ളൂ. നിങ്ങളുടെ ആവറേജ് കോസ്റ്റ് ഒക്കെ സാറ് പറഞ്ഞ അനുസരിച്ചാണെങ്കിൽ അറൌണ്ട് 6 rupees എന്തോ വരുന്നുണ്ട്. വി കാൻ ഡു ഇൻക്രീസ് ഇറ്റ്. അതിന്റെ പ്രൊഡക്ഷൻ കൂട്ടാനായിട്ട് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഇൻസെന്റീവ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടേ? ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെന്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നവർക്ക് ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെന്റ് റിട്ടേണൊന്നും ഇല്ല. ഡോക്ടർ ശ്രീലേഖാജി ഇരുന്നതുപോലെ ദിസ് ഇസ് സംതിങ് ടു ബി ഡിസ്കസ്ഡ്, thought of. Thank you.
Quickly responding, highest paid for scale solar by government is 3.5 for farmers. It's a scheme called PM Kusum. 3.5 for farmers for fallow land, where farmers put the solar plants in. So that has become a quasi upper yardstick, right? So the thing is that if you have 2 lakh, 3 lakh to put a 2 to 4 kV plant up there, the purchase price is pegged at 2.5, which will be probably an average of the lowest solar can offer on the national grid. This is Dar Desert. Adani is putting 20,000 megawatts. So his cost will be 2.5, 2.6. So they will put you at 2.5. That call has to be taken whether you want faster growth than solar. You have to pay a little more. But right now we are all supplying at 2.5. The utility perspective, why should I pay more? You see, with the 2.5, the weighted average I am bringing to 6.50. The average cost of supply. That's included. 2.5 is averaged out at, whatever is it, 7% of my input supply. It's a good question. Government utility can think of it, but at the moment, my problem is I put more rooftop solar. I will not be able to see. Again, the long-term contracts are held on fixed and variable cost. The fixed part of the contract I have to pay even if I don't schedule power. So I pay additional 20 paise, I will pay additional 20 paise here also. So that might actually hurt your interest. So it's a give and take. We did not discuss the net and gross metering.
But actually, sir, the rooftop solar for domestic consumers are actually meant for their own application, their own usage. He has never assumed to store it in banking in KSCB's account. That is not a wise decision at all.
That's why.
It is, she is now earning 8 rupees per unit for their own consumption during daytime.
That's why.
But since she is not using daytime, how can he deposit in KSCB's account and take back in?
That part is understood. That's why when I constructed my new house, I am relying on KSCB only to power my AC plant, and the rest I have put storage to and put it operating. Now that you know the story, that is the best way to do.
Storage is okay, but otherwise it is not advisable.
Because the other way to look at it is, when I am paying only 2.5, most people will realize that selling it on grid is not really helpful. So they will buy their storage and sort of move to off grid.
So
it's good for me.
Yeah.
Sir, one solution is, if you have solar power generated, you store it in a substantial battery bank. So that basically the smart metering you are telling, I am saying the present scenario, if you check the consumers, what is your connected load? I went to a house because I am an integrator, solar integrator. His connected load was 0.5 kilowatt. 500 watts, no house will work. And he is supposed to put a 3 kilowatt plant. So first I said you have to increase your connected load. You have to make it at least 3 kilowatt, preferably 5 kilowatt. Because he is having computer, he is having washing machine, he is having heaters. And most of these solar users, I am not actually discouraging these people who have done the grid tie. Most of the husband or wife is working. The children are going to school and all come back at 6 o'clock in the house. The first thing they do is switch on the geyser in the bathroom. Then the wife starts cooking and the TV is on. Then night AC starts functioning. All the consumption happens during the peak time. The smart metering should be done and it should check exactly what is the peak load taken. It is not only the TOD metering. Suppose your peak load is coming to 10 kilowatt, your connected load is only 5 kilowatt. KSCB should know that. Otherwise, this error cannot be solved.
There is having the facility. There is an RMD, running maximum demand, and there is a recorded. The meter reader can easily take that and record it in the.
You should get a chart which shows that these are the peak loads.
Yes, but that is never. Even with the 80,000 EB transformers, that is not implemented, sir. It's so pathetic. So if you put a small TOD regular meter, which we used to give to the LT industrial consumers, CD operated meter, KSCB is having 100 kVA, 160 kVA, 250 kVA range only. A 400 per 5 and 200 per 5, 450 per 5 CD can just give you the entire data of 80,000 distribution transformer network in a single click. So that is not available with us. It's pathetic. But the actual cause, I know why it is not been popularized in KSCBs. They have tried this, but most of the time, the transformer input, the delivery from LT will be stand there, and if you calculate the other thing, it will be more.
I'll tell you an even deeper crisis. December 2025, this analog meters, electronic analog meters are going to be phased out. So all the analog meter makers have stopped production. KSCB has not taken a policy decision to move on to consumer and smarter meters, whereas the manufacturers have already moved ahead. And yesterday I found one of the union thinkers saying that, we will establish our own smart meter plan. But I was reminded, I said, but you said you will make your own COVID vaccine also. And export to the US also. It's very easy to say, And I found him conclude by, I'm looking at it rationally, but usual lead time will be 4 to 5 years. But you can't use this meter after December 2025. Now how will you tide over? Nobody has any clue. But he concluded by saying that, he said that whatever he was opposing me when I used to be in the board, he concluded that those have to be done. He agreed. Finally, he concluded with the sentence that, ഇതിനെല്ലാം ഒരു ജനകീയ ബദൽ ഉയർന്നു വരണം. ഞാൻ ചെയ്ത് സ്മാർട്ട് മീറ്റർ ഉണ്ടായിക്കൊണ്ട് വരണം, നമ്മൾ തന്നെ അതൊരു പോപ്പുലർ മൂവ്മെന്റ് ആയിട്ട് മാറണം. അതൊരു കേരളത്തിൻ്റെതായ ഒരു ബദൽ. So these words don't mean anything. Question is, will you change over the regulatory regime, as you rightly said?
But the energy transition policy is already drafted that they should go for Rolex. There is no other go.
He has notified the regulations and gave you 3 years lead time to switch over. But you have not contracted even a single one. This is the problem. So let me give you a stop solution to solve this issue. Government take a considered view that generation will be fully sort of liberalized, to get at least a 51% equity partner onto the gen side. Discoms, you get at least invite everybody in and issue deals to at least 4 or 5 competitors, maintaining KCBL. Maybe KCBL can divest 30% of its equity in the DL and the distribution side. In transmission, you maintain your 66% stake. One core policy shift. You don't have to privatize. You just bring in highly. Well, let me tell you. See, it is impossible to drive KCBL's mission without competent board of directors. Okay, in a company, it is the board of directors who are the founding. The composition of the board in Kerala, some IAS officer is picked irrespective of background. We go and learn, and we try to learn. That's what happens. The technology directors, 7 of them, 6, they usually have 18 months to 24 months in the board level. So that will be their first experience. Chief engineer, day one in the board, does not know the Companies Act. So we have to bring him to speed with the Companies Act. I had recommended strongly to government to phase out 4 positions, particularly projects, either distribution or transmission, but more of transmission, and get 3 people. I told the government informally, you will get Malayalis. Please take people who have done 1 board term in one of the national utilities, either NTPC or that. But it got shot down. You were too fast. But after I left, probably they revisited. Now they are going to hire and told people who have board level experience. And you had immense talent in the energy sector, which we refused to sort of hire. Second is to have full-time director of finance to handle the finances. So these are starting points. Because if you see, point is value for money. If in the distribution side 4 players start competing, all this will get done automatically.
Yes. That is the start running. That's only solution.
Asset management side, an intense implementer like NLC or this, because you tend to work with their director boards, their professionals. The NTPC will not leave a 150 crore investment idle for 3 years. They will get it done. And the moment the equity is sort of shifted more in terms of the right quantum of private capital, what will happen is value for the shareholders' money will start getting pushed. Today, the director board of KCBL, those 7 and their prospects have nothing to do with the company. So why should they put their neck on the line? So they will say, okay, let us refer to C&AG, let us refer to AG, let us. And if,
Sir, on the scope of solar energy, in future, that is scope. Steady growth.
40%, all mandated at 40% in the grid.
Yeah.
So it will come up.
Second question, domestic actually solar activism.
See, that I will answer, sir, please. The thing is, the most important thing which we need to address in the time, ഈ ഗ്രിഡ് ചെയ്ത് കൊടുക്കുന്നതിന് KSB പർച്ചേസിംഗിലല്ലേ പ്രശ്നമുള്ളൂ. They should give a liberty to sell to anybody. ഇപ്പൊ ബീലിംഗ് ചാർജ് ഇതേ കസ്റ്റമറിന് 2 വീട് വേറെ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അവിടേക്ക് ബീലില്ല. സോ അത് ഓപ്പൺ അപ്പ് ചെയ്ത് കൊടുക്കുക, നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ആർക്കും കിട്ടുക. അപ്പൊ ഇത് വളരെ കോമ്പറ്റേറ്റീവ് അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ വരും. വിൻ വിൻ സിറ്റുവേഷൻ ആണ്. ജനറേഷൻ ഇൻക്രീസ് ആവും. കാരണം ഇവർ പകൽ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നില്ല. പക്ഷെ ഇവർക്ക് പകൽ ഇവർ വെച്ചിരിക്കുന്ന പ്ലാന്റിൽ നിന്ന് മേ ബി ഒരു കൊമേഴ്ഷ്യലുകാരനോ ഇവരുടെ ഫ്രണ്ടിനോ ആർക്കും വേണമെങ്കിൽ ഡീൽ ചെയ്യാം. സോ ഡീൽ ചെയ്യാൻ പൈസ കിട്ടും. അപ്പോൾ ഇവർക്ക് പേ ചെയ്യാൻ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടില്ല. ഇറ്റ്സ് എ വിൻ വിൻ സിറ്റുവേഷൻ. So that will enhance the contribution of domestic consumers to grid. പിന്നെ നമ്മുടെ പ്രശ്നം എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഈ ഡൊമസ്റ്റിക് പ്രൊസ്യൂമേഴ്സിൽ പലരും ദുബായിൽ അവരോടൊക്കെ പോയി സെറ്റിൽ ആയ കേസാണ്. അവരുടെ ബില്ല് 0 ആണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ ജനറേഷൻ മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ. അവർ ഫാൻസിക്ക് വേണ്ടി വെച്ചു, പിന്നെ അവർ ഇത് യൂസ് ചെയ്തില്ല. അവർ ഇപ്പൊ ഈ ഡേ ടൈം യൂസ് ഇല്ലാതെ സോളാർ പ്രൊസ്യൂമേഴ്സ് ഡൊമസ്റ്റിക് സെക്ടറിൽ വന്നാൽ ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ബി എ ഹെഡേക്ക് ഫോർ ദ എൻ്റയർ സിസ്റ്റം. ഇറ്റ് കനോട്ട് പെനിട്രേറ്റ് പ്രോപ്പർലി. urbanized ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല, parallel ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല.
I agree, but the way to improve the prospect of the solar producer is to put the storage on the other side. And 1 minute on the pump back scheme, which we could not discuss. Putting pump back is nothing but running the turbine twice on the same quantum of water. So you put a pump back. The idea is that when the solar power is available cheap in the grid, you pump up the penstock through the penstock up to the reservoir and take a second current on that. Kerala has 5,000 megawatt of potential. The problem is, today I cannot say that the gen of KSCB will achieve it. In the first place, you have problems in completing the initial plans. Pump back is much more complex.
Yes.
So it's much more complex. So we had made recommendations to either partner THDCL, Tehri Hydro, who are experts in pump back, or even one of the the NHPC. Again, they have experience with the pump back schemes, which is unfortunately those partnership proposals. Again, you see the problem is, if these things, let me tell you very simply, political calls don't matter much. The company should decide. But I have to go to government for anybody investment above 50 crore, and I have to go to the regulatory commission for every investment above 10 crore. So those maharshis have to be pleased. So I could not get my way through there. But I think that is one way to sort of solve the solar puzzle, is to put a couple of 1,000 megawatts of pump back schemes, which means that when you are producing, I double my storage, and in the peak I it involves some cost. It gives you only some.
But in transformer wise also, we can have a storage, and that can be penetrated to the street light mains.
Australia has carefully done it at the substation level.
Yeah.
They have created 3 megawatt storage in every single substation, so that the
during the off-peak hour, it can give a BMS system to store it in the.
Battery storage pilot tender was floated. I have floated every tender in all these technologies which you have. Floating solar, I got 6.5 rupees. Just 1 minute. I know you are overseas. Floating solar, 4 reservoirs I tendered. The lowest rate I got was 6.5 rupees per unit. Immediately commercial said this is available at 3 rupees, so you can't go forward. Actually, it was stupid. We should have taken the 6.5.
Yes.
But again,
now it is mandate.
Vigilance will put you to sir, lab in the so they parked it. But initially, your Banasura Sagar solar is at about rupees 19 per unit. So pilot you have justified and you claim it as your success. 6.5 they did not take the bid. Then pilot storage 10 megawatt plant, that was tendered at 110 crores. So that works out to about 9 rupees per unit. Same halla. I got all the unions gave me in writing that battery storage should not be invested with. Nala ayala TV enki kattunnalu nala parayunnattu storage il invest cheyidirunengi ipo kodapputtaville. Kodapilla 24 മാസം കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് സംഗതി മനസ്സിലാവും. I am not criticizing, but the point is these are hardcore commercial decisions a competent board should take, and in every new investment there will be an element of diseconomy which you have to overcome when it scales up. The board is hesitant to do that. Smart meter, same thing. Digital meterization, same thing. So you are caught between this hydra of an organization which is still government and has to do a highly technical, competitive, commercial function. This is sort nobody can guide the board.
Easiest thing is privatizing.
I just said, please diversify the equities, get competent boards to run this, competent professionals to run it. Private sector can also misfire. Orissa phase 1 was a major failure. I am saying we got to get professional about running these boards. Then things will they will restructure. They will get the right technology. And the trouble is, we cannot develop for that professional who will run it. And that's because I took time to go and study how the Bombay supply is organized, their managers, the leading firms which organize them, how different they are and how fast they are able to take vending decisions. Because YGB Meghalaya in the crisis, there is a 15% growth in demand year after year.
Yes.
Only thing the utility should do, if you cannot generate, is to buy and supply at the cheapest cost add-on. Why you are not able to do it and run a 70 to 80 paise difference in the cost to ARR? And you have a long time frame to do that, right? I am not asking you to do it in 1 year. You were a company in 2013, you are run for 11 years. Out of the 11 years, 10 years you were in losses. So when the costs are foreseeable, demand is growing at 15%, should you not organize to reach, like the European utility, 10% surplus? So the failure is entirely with the leadership and the board. That is the crisis.
Okay, last question.
ഡേറ്റയിൽ സോളാർ ഉപയോഗിക്കാൻ കഴിയും. പക്ഷേ KSEയുടെ ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ പോളിസിയിൽ ഞാനൊരു കമേഴ്ഷ്യൽ ചാർജിംഗ് സ്റ്റേഷൻ എസ്റ്റാബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്താൽ ഞാൻ സോളാർ വയ്ക്കാൻ പാടില്ല. അതാണ് ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ KSEയുടെ ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ റൂൾ. Solar energy cannot be used in a commercial charging station. Is written in the KSE rule. അതാണ് ഞങ്ങൾ
EV charging station again, sir.
EV charging station.
EV charging station, we have so many other regulations which is going to address in the power policy. It's already drafted.
EV എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് കാർബൺ റിഡക്ഷൻ ആണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഇലക്ട്രിസിറ്റി ഉപയോഗിക്കാൻ സോളാർ ഇലക്ട്രിസിറ്റി ഉപയോഗിക്കാൻ KSE സമ്മതിക്കുന്നില്ല. ഇത് എവിടുത്തെ നിയമമാണ്?
അശോക് സാറിന് ഒരു മീറ്റിംഗ് കൂടെ പങ്കെടുക്കാനുണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ ഇൻഡപ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. വളരെ വൈബ്രന്റ് ആക്കിയത് ശ്രീ രാജൻ മേനോൻ, ഇലക്ട്രിക്കൽ കോൺട്രാക്ടേഴ്സ് അസോസിയേഷന്റെ പ്രസിഡന്റാണ്, പാലക്കാട് നിന്ന്. അദ്ദേഹമാണ് ഇന്നത്തെ പങ്കെടുത്തത്. എല്ലാവരും കാണാം. ഞാൻ അശോക് സാറിനും പവിത്ര സാറിനും ഫോർമലായിട്ട് താങ്ക്സ് പറയാണ് യോഗം അവസാനിക്കും. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.